Let me check on my phone because the chat, I can't scroll it. So let me just check the chat real quick. Say hi to anyone that's in here. What's up, Rom, Capivine, Simon, Tide Piper, what's up? Hope everyone's doing good today. It's a little bit warmer out than I thought. Forecast said it was going to be 79, I think, or 80. And to be fair, it does feel that way. I guess when you're just sitting in one spot under the sun, it starts to feel a little bit warmer the longer you sit, but it should be okay. That's why I brought the tank top today, the sleeveless shirt, to try and get like a little tan, I guess. Even out my tan a little bit. Got the farmer's tan going on right now, so. So yeah, I decided to come to USC. I thought it was gonna be dead, but it's actually pretty packed. Maybe they started classes sooner than expected, I guess, because other universities start classes at the end of September, like September 22nd, I think. So I thought that they were gonna be, you know, pretty empty. What's up, man? You wanna give this a shot? Yeah? All right, 2 easy questions. See if you can get them right.
Hey.
Here, I'll give you my information, and you can take it if you want. Otherwise, all right. All right. It's not the first time that guy stops by to have a little chat. Yeah, I think it was like the same guy that stopped last time. It was just all like on one, and just basically picked an answer before I even asked the question. That's exactly what he did again. Kind of funny, but it's kind of messed up at the same time, you know, 'cause nobody wants to see anyone else just, you know, lost on drugs and shit like that, or just mentally lost, in other words. Like, it's not cool. It's not cool to be in, it's not cool to witness, but just something that we have to, I guess, deal with for the meantime, right? But it is what it is. I actually thought I was gonna have my first conversation, but then I looked at it was that same guy, so I wasn't even gonna like do even try to attempt to do the questions. But again, I just feel fucked up not. I don't like discriminating, right? But then yeah, right away he answered before I asked the question, so that gave me the green light to, okay, this is not gonna happen. Oh, so I have the do you trust your common sense today? So we'll see if people are intrigued by that question here. So like the title says, objective truths are not up for debate. I guess an example of that would be like, we don't have the ability to walk on water, right? So that would be an objective truth, right? We don't have the ability to walk on water. So that is not even up for debate, right? It's a fact. You know, your body is obviously more dense than water, therefore water can't support your mass. You know, therefore you start, you know, to sink, you know, in the water, right? So again, that's not up for debate. But then you have, you know, so again, water has properties, right? Obviously, again, can hold, you know, denser objects on the surface, for example, right? Another property of water would be water cannot be compressed, right? If you have 1 cubic foot of water, or even a cubic inch of water, right? You cannot compress that water to a smaller volume. You know, that's another property of water. That's another objective truth about water, right? That's not up for debate. It's not up for debate. That's what it is. You know, water cannot be compressed. So again, now when we're talking about water being at rest when contained, now we have another property of water right there. That's another objective truth. When water is contained and at rest, the surface always collapses to form a level surface, right? Because water doesn't have the ability to support itself, You know, that's another property of water. It's another objective truth about water. Again, it's not up for debate, but for some reason, right, when it comes to that, oh, it is up for debate, right? Because the physics of water changes the larger scale you go, right? Yeah, if you're measuring a lake, right? Yeah, sure, it's level on the surface, but that's because it's local. It's a very small amount of water. If we're talking about the Earth, then the Earth, the oceans, you know, that water is not level. That water is bending, right? So again, they're having to twist a fundamental fact about this reality, an objective truth about this reality that shouldn't be up for debate, right? Now they're second guessing that, not even second guessing that, completely dismissing it in favor of an image of a globe Earth, you know, on TV. So the image is what convinced people that water level means curve, right? And basically the properties of water are wrong when it comes to water being level when containing at rest. You know, because that's what I was told when I was a child, that's what I've been shown on TV, and that's what all the experts say, right? Therefore, water being level means curve. So the properties of water when containing at rest being level is not true, right, in their mind. It's only true at a local small scale, but on a bigger scale, it changes, right? So again, people are having to completely deny an objective truth to accept the globe Earth, again, when it comes to the physics of water. Another objective truth, when you have different states of matter in a container and you accelerate that container, you're going to get displacement of matter. So something is more dense, it's going to appear to move in the opposite direction of the applied acceleration or force, and if something is less dense, in other words a buoyant object, it's going to get pushed by the medium that surrounds it, something that's less dense. So that's an objective truth, again, when it comes to acceleration. You know, it's not up for debate. When you accelerate a container with different states of matter, you're going to get a reaction 100% of the time. Fact, objective truth about this reality, a fundamental fact, you know, about reality and about acceleration in general, right? When you accelerate a container with different states of matter inside of it, you're going to get displacement 100% of the time. Fact, objective truth. You know, again, matter has properties. It cannot think for itself. Therefore, it can only react to an external force. So that's what happens, right? But now they want you to believe that, okay, acceleration without any effects of acceleration is possible. So now something that's not up for debate because it's an objective truth, again, when it comes to acceleration and force, now they want you to believe otherwise. They want you to believe that it is possible to have acceleration without displacement. Again, all there to just feed an image on a screen. It's all there to just, all these explanations are just there to feed what you were told as a child, you know, at the end of the day. So again, acceleration without displacement is not an objective truth. Acceleration that causes displacement is the objective truth, and it shouldn't be up for debate. Literally, it should not be up for debate. But yet, globe earthers and now stationary flat earthers are going against that objective truth. They're going against that fundamental fact about our reality, right? Why? Because they have a bias. They have a bias towards a model. Again, a model of the earth that's not real. You know, nobody has an exact model of what the earth is. So why is anyone pushing a model? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, people still do that. You know, it just shows that people are not thinking clearly. You know, it's a little bit sad. You know, at the end of the day, but people can only, you know, dig their own grave at the end of the day. That's what people are doing. People are just digging their own grave at this point. You know, because nobody's forcing you. Nobody's literally forcing you to have the beliefs that you have. Nobody's forcing you to deny your reality. You know, I guess you could say there is a little bit of force when it comes to academia and school, universities. You know, in a sense where if you don't get the correct answer, you won't pass the class. So if you want to pass the class, then they are kind of forcing the answers on you, right? But again, you don't have to believe them at the end of the day. Sure, you can just answer the questions to pass the test. Sure, I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, you still don't have to believe them. So it still comes down to nobody's actually really forcing you to buy into these concepts about the Earth, you know, to buy into the globe Earth, to buy into the idea of outer space and this whole heliocentric model about the cosmology of the Earth, right? Nobody's actually forcing you to do that, you know. It's a choice to buy into it. And now with the stationary flat Earth, the pizza dish floating with the dome and the ice wall, right? That's a model of the Earth that, again, nobody has a true model of the Earth, of what it looks like and what it actually is. So now flat Earthers have jumped from one model of the globe Earth to another model of a stationary flat Earth, which again, they're no different. They are both utilizing physical downwards acceleration, which doesn't exist. You know, they're both pushing the biggest lie on Earth by far. You know, the biggest lie on Earth being that, you know, people believe objects accelerate down in free fall, which is not the case. You know, objects don't accelerate down towards the Earth. You know, physics shows that. Reality is not lying to you. You know, but yeah, people are buying into a flat Earth model and globe Earth models. Again, in my opinion, it's like no different than when people buy into a religion. They do it out of like to feel some kind of comfort, to feel, you know, to have some certainty, I guess, or, you know, to not feel so lost. And I don't know why people do it. It's like a comfort blanket, you know, like a little toddler, right? They can't let go of their little blanket because it makes them feel comfortable, it makes them feel safe, right? So I feel like people buy into these ideas about the Earth and religion as well as a comfort, like a comfort blanket. You know, it kind of like makes them feel comfortable, you know. I guess it makes them feel better about themselves. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Because, again, someone that's completely out of that mindset, I can't really put myself in that kind of mindset again because it just doesn't make any sense, right? So looking at it from the outside in, it's a trip, you know. And again, I'm not perfect. Obviously, nobody's perfect. And I actually went through that as well. I had biases as well when I first came into this subject. You know, and obviously they were not as strong as some people might have, you know, but I still had some biases. I didn't want the Earth to be level, right? I actually wanted the Earth to be a globe. I thought the Earth being a globe and outer space with aliens and then other Earth-like planets, you know, miles, millions of miles away and blah 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 blah, right? All that story it was fascinating to me, right? I you know, I believed it, you know, I trust authority and all that, you know, so I went through that as well, you know. I was a big fan of that, actually. Unlike most people that just don't really care, right? I was actually, maybe that's why, you know, maybe this subject really hit home for me, I guess, because, you know, I was always fascinated about existing, right? Existence, reality, right? What is this? What am I? Whoa, what the fuck? You know, like, how do I even comprehend this, what I'm experiencing right now, right? So I've always had like a philosophical mind. So this subject just, man, it was right up my alley, literally, where my mind was already kind of, you know, mentally. You know, especially being into outer space and aliens and all of that, and contemplating all of that, right? I used to contemplate that shit all the time about outer space and what it would feel like or be like to go to another planet and experience like 1/6 of your body of your weight, right? You know, like in the moon, right? Like they say, you'll feel 1/6 lighter. Point being is that, you know, I was all into that, you know, and it just, again, I didn't lie to myself when I came across this subject. I didn't lie to myself. I took the facts for what they were. I double checked the facts, you know, and this is where I am now, you know. So your understanding can only get better, you know, when it comes to this subject, when it comes to objective truth, when it comes to basic physics, you know, your understanding can only get better. So the sooner the people jump on board, the better, obviously, you know. But again, the propaganda, you know, I get it. The ridiculing, you know, I get it. You know, people are gonna be turned off to the subject, you know, because of peer pressure and whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, it's about getting this information out to as many people as possible, and then people are going to have to make a decision for themselves, you know, what they want to do with the information. If they're going to deny it, they're going to accept it, you know, whatever, right? So it's up to the individual at the end of the day. So here's a question for motionless flat earthers and globe earthers, right? When it comes to buoyancy, right? So here's the question I think that's gonna be key to asking people, because a lot of people, for example, if I have a helium balloon, right, and I release it, what direction does it go, right? It goes up. And obviously everyone, flat earthers, globe earthers, you know, real truthers, will concede that it's the helium rising, there's a direct correlation between the air that's more dense and the helium balloon that's less dense. So there is a direct correlation there between the air and the helium that's making the helium move, right? So the question is now, what is the physical interaction between the air and the helium balloon that makes the helium balloon get pushed up? So what's the physical interaction again that makes the air push the helium up and not to the left or to the right or even down, right? Because there's two factors when it comes to air pushing helium, right? One factor is air obviously has to be more dense than helium or the object that is pushing, right? That's the number one factor. What's the number two factor? There's a second thing to that before we have motion, right? And obviously the second one is the force. So you need obviously, you know, a density difference. So you need air to be more dense than helium, right? For air to be able to push helium, right? But you also require a force, right? So a force meaning that matter that's in motion, something that's already moving, that's pushing something else, that's pushing something else, right? So the physical interaction between the air and the helium balloon that makes the helium balloon go up is that the air is literally moving up, pushing the helium up. So that is the direct physical interaction that is happening between the air and the helium. So my question to a globe earther or a stationary flat earther is, in your mind, what is the physical interaction between the air and the helium balloon that makes the helium balloon go up and not left or right or down? So what is happening physically? What is the physical interaction, again, that makes air push helium up in specific, right? Because the real answer to that is that the air is moving up as well. So the air is more dense than helium, that's the first factor. And the second factor is that the air is moving up through space relative to us. Well, I guess we're moving up with it as well. So everything's moving up, being pushed up, including the air. So the whole reference frame is moving up, therefore pushing the air up. And that's the physical interaction between the air and the helium balloon, is that the air is moving up, and because it's more dense than helium, is able to push the helium up as well. So it's pushing it along, I guess you could say. That's the physical interaction between the air and the helium that makes the helium go up and not left and right. So if the air was moving to the left, then the helium will go to the left. If the air was moving to the right, then the helium will go to the right. If the air was being pushed down, then the helium balloon will go down. That is the physical interaction. So the air is moving up. That's why helium goes up, because it's more dense as well. So again, globe earthers and stationary flat earthers don't have an answer to that. They just have, I don't know what the fuck they think. They just have like a blank, and then, well, that's why, you know, and then a conclusion based on nothing, right? Like, I don't get it. Like, what do you think is physically happening between the air and the helium that's actually moving the helium up? The air is able to push the helium up. What is happening physically? I can't even try to comprehend another cohesive answer or logical answer. Like, so that's why it baffles me that people will die by that, you know? Like, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy, you know? So this always happens here. There's always a lot of students walking in and out of the campus, and even the USC village here. Literally hundreds of students walking in and out. Maybe not at a time, obviously, but within like 10 minutes, you know, pretty close. And nobody stops at the table. I mean, a lot of people look at it, but here at USC, I've noticed I get the least conversations, even though there's a lot of students. You know, it could be an LA thing, you know. I've had some students mention that, how in Riverside, people are a little bit more friendly, more, you know, a little bit more approachable, right? A little bit more social, I guess. I don't know. And I've noticed that in not gonna lie. You know, at UCR, I get a lot of conversations, even when it's empty. That's crazy. Even when I go to UCR and it's kind of empty, I still get like 2-3 conversations. You know, so it's kind of weird that I come here to USC. There's a lot of students walking in and out. Not only just students. That's another thing. Just civilians as well. They're just people that are not even in school. You know, just walking. You know, this block, and yeah, it just takes longer to get a conversation here for some reason. You know, so. I'm thinking, would that be different if I actually went inside the campus, right? Who knows? Who knows? Because at UCR, I'm inside the campus. When I've gone to UCLA a couple of times, usually I was inside and then I was outside. But I still got conversations there, you know. Well, at least more. So, I'm gonna wait a little bit, see if anybody stops. Check the chat, see if there's any questions. Sir Blackbird, you should be able to measure the movement of this upward moving air. Can you show us? Yeah. Get a helium balloon. Go outside first of all. Go to a party store or something. Get a helium balloon. Buy a helium balloon. They're only a couple of dollars. You know, maybe $1. Blackbird. This is for you, Blackbird. Get a helium balloon, right? Hold it and just release it, right? What direction do you think the helium balloon is going to go? Right? It's going to go up, right? That is showing you that the air is literally pushing up the helium. And the only way for the air to be able to push up helium or in any other direction is for the air to also be in motion in that same direction. It's for also to be pushed in that same direction. So that's the facts. That's reality. If you're going to deny an objective truth when it comes to buoyancy, for example, then you better have something practical to demonstrate. So what practical demonstration, Blackbird, do you have that can show helium being pushed by air in any other way other than the air moving in that same direction that the helium balloon is moving? How the fuck are you gonna be able to demonstrate that, Blackbird? Like, seriously. Like, seriously. So you're asking for proof of air moving up? Just release a helium balloon. There you go. Now, if you think there's a different way for a helium balloon to rise and surrounded by a medium we call air, if you think there's another way for a helium balloon to react other than the air moving and pushing the helium balloon, show it. Show me helium reacting to air without the air moving. Push the helium balloon in any other direction without the air moving in that direction. Please demonstrate that, Blackbird. And until you can demonstrate that, then your little question there about how did you prove the air is moving up is completely irrelevant, because that's just an objective fact, an objective truth. The air cannot be helium cannot be pushed by air if the air is not moving in the same direction. Fact, objective truth. If you think that's not true, demonstrate it. Demonstrate it. That's all you have to do. Well, at least you admit that gravity is not a force, Blackbird, so that's one step, I guess. And even the globe earth priest, you know, had to concede to that. You know, that's why they had to come up with their mind-bending explanation, right? About the bending and warping of space-time, right? The bending and warping of your mind, right? That's why they had to come up with that theory to explain away how gravity is not a force, but it can still act like a force. It's not a force, but it just does everything that a force would do, you know, except it doesn't displace matter. You know, that's why it's not a force. But it is a force because it can move matter. But it's not a force because it doesn't cause displacement. Like, what? Like just think about that. Like, just try to comprehend that. Like, talk about a mind fuck right there. Like literally, you're just trying to mind fuck people at that point. Talk about gaslighting, huh? Like, fuck me. Like, damn. Fucking crazy, yeah. But yeah, I mean, people believe it, people accept it, and it's baffling. You know, people like Blackbird that are on task, in my opinion, like, or he's just completely self-ignorant, or, you know, willfully ignorant, right? That's not even an issue, you know. That's, you know, it's irrelevant. It's the people that actually believe it, in my opinion. You know, that's where it's like, holy shit, these people are being mindful. You know, and willful ignorant people like Blackbird are feeding that. You know, they're mind fucking people as well by just repeating their bullshit. You know, with just a little bit of confidence in there. You know, so it's baffling. You know. Obviously, I can't share a link right now, Blackbird, but for sure, if I ever do an open live stream again, I'll definitely invite you on, I guess, if you think you have something, you know, that can create buoyancy, again, without motion of the medium. I would love to see it, in other words, you know. I would 100% concede, you know, that, okay, the helium balloon can move up, you know, without the air being pushed up as well. You know, if you could show me an example of that, I would 100% concede that that is possible. Again, I don't care. I'll concede to it. You know, if I'm wrong when it comes to something, I don't care. I don't mind admitting it, right? So, again, same thing when it comes to this whole thing about, oh, whether it's accelerating or constant, right? The Earth. Well, in my opinion, it is accelerating. So there's no debate there, in my opinion. I mean, there could be, I guess, right, if someone else can bring some information forward. But I would say it is accelerating. There is a force, an accelerating upward force that we feel, right? But here's the thing that most people don't understand. There is two types of acceleration when it comes to acceleration, right? We have linear acceleration, which will mean your velocity increases into infinity. In order to keep accelerating, right, your velocity will have to just, if you're talking about linear acceleration or linear motion, right? So have acceleration and linear motion at the same time is meaning your velocity would just have to increase to infinity, right? To always have acceleration moving linearly. Then you have the second type of acceleration, which is not linear motion. It's motion. Then there's a constant change of direction, I guess you could say. And because there's a constant change of direction, there's a constant acceleration while remaining at a constant velocity. So that's the second type of acceleration, which again, at the end of the day, nobody knows exactly what we're experiencing here, if it's linear acceleration, right? Just accelerating into infinity, or if it's acceleration due to a constant change in direction while remaining at a constant velocity, right? So in my opinion, again, I can't prove this, and again, I'm mean man enough to admit those are the two options. That's it. Those are the two options. They're both accelerating forces, but in my opinion, based on the physics of water and how it behaves, and based on the tides, there's a shift in the motion vector, in my opinion, in the plumb relative to the oceans, a very slight change. In my opinion, the Earth is not moving linearly. Again, I can't prove that. If I had to pick, I guess, right? Which one would you, if those are the two options, well, which one do you think makes more sense? Well, in my opinion, based on the physics of water, again, I'm not just saying it, again, based on the physics of water and how water behaves when it comes to force, I would say the Earth is not moving in a straight line. So there is a constant change in direction in the Earth's motion. In my opinion, again, I can't prove that. So it's still accelerating up. So that's what I'm saying when people say, like, oh, you deny the Earth is accelerating up. Like, no, I don't. I accept the Earth is accelerating up, sure. But again, you fail to understand that there's two kinds of accelerations that exist that we can recreate, right? And it will give us the effects that we experience here on Earth. Again, I don't know the exact motion. I don't know the exact shape and about in the Earth, and you know, I don't know anything about the Earth entirely as a whole, you know, and how it works as a whole. You know, nobody knows. But what can't be denied is that the force of the Earth is up, that the air is being pushed up, that the ground is pushing up against you. You know, that can be easily recreated, easily. Again, I don't care. If you can prove me wrong physically about something that I've said and that I made a claim of positively, then sure, I'm open to it, and I'll concede if you can prove me wrong physically. You know. So other than that, yeah, it is what it is. Blackbird, you're saying you explain how helium balloons rise up, right, on a globe? We're not talking about explanations here. If you don't have a demonstration to back up your explanation, then your explanation is pointless. It's worthless. Literally, if all you have is an explanation to why a helium balloon rises without a practical demonstration of that, then it's just bullshit. It's just, I can give you an explanation how Superman can't fly. Does that mean Superman exists and he can fly? Like what the hell what are we talking about? I can give you an explanation how someone can teleport to another country, for example. I can give you an explanation. Does that mean that it's physically possible for someone to teleport to another country? No. You need a practical demonstration of your explanation. Otherwise, it's not science. It's just bullshit. It's just fairy tales. If your explanation is not backed by the practical or a demonstration for that matter, it's just a fairy tale. So if you have a fairy tale about how helium balloons rise up on a globe, nobody cares. Like literally nobody cares. Especially when we're talking about science. When we're talking about science, like who the fuck cares about fairy tales? But yeah, we're talking about a practical demonstration. You're claiming that air can push helium without the air moving in that same direction the helium's being pushed. Show me that in another vector. Show me again, reorientate the motion of helium to a different direction without the air pushing it in that without the air moving in that same direction. Like how the fuck are you gonna do that? I'm curious. You know, it's pretty crazy. Like if that's not the definition of crazy, like if you actually believe that, it's like someone believing, like literally believing that someone can walk on water. It's like if a group of people believe that their priest can actually walk on water. Right? Imagine that, like they actually believe that. I would say they're fucking crazy. That is the definition of crazy. Like if you actually believe it though. Obviously you could be trolling and just going along to get along, right? Obviously you're not crazy, you're just trolling. But if you actually believe it, that is crazy. You know, obviously there's different levels of crazy. Obviously there's some people that are way more crazier than others, right? But I would say that is pretty crazy. That will fall under the definition of crazy. To believe something so absurd, like walking on water, or again, acceleration with no effects of acceleration, or buoyancy without any motion of the medium that surrounds, you know, the buoyant object. All of those things you know, if you believe that, you know, that there's another way, or that it is possible to do, you know, to get these effects a different way, then that is crazy at the end of the day. So again, it's my opinion, sure, I would say that, you know, but pretty bizarre for sure. Yeah, I guess people don't trust their common sense out here, right? Okay, literally show me the Earth rising up. All have you done so far is provide an explanation to show us the Earth rising. I can show you how a buoyant effect is created. I can recreate a buoyant effect like this by moving, accelerating the medium in a different direction. The pressure that's created within the medium is able to push anything that's less dense in that same direction. That is what we call buoyancy. And I can do it with different states of matter. I can do it with water and air, and I can do it with air and helium as well. And again, you can use different states of matter. It doesn't matter. You can use different containers. You can use different size containers. You know, it doesn't matter. You're gonna get that effect of buoyancy, of the medium pushing the less dense medium. Therefore, that becomes an objective fact, an objective truth. There's a direct correlation between the more dense medium and the less dense object. The less dense object will react or get pushed in the same direction that the medium is also being pushed. Fact. I can recreate that here on Earth. Therefore, I can logically conclude that the same physical interaction is happening when I release a helium balloon here on Earth. That is a logical conclusion based on practical physics, based on practical references that can be recreated and demonstrated. So I'm not just giving an explanation, I'm showing you the practical. I'm recreating the effects we're experiencing here on Earth. Therefore, when we see a helium balloon rising, the only logical explanation, and you know, that's there, the only logical conclusion, it's a conclusion based on practical physics and how matter behaves, is that the air has to be in upwards motion to be able to push up a helium balloon. There. I don't know what you want. I don't know. You want to see the Earth from outside rising up, right? That's what you want. That's the question that you're asking. Literally, that's where it leads to. So it's a loaded question, in other words, Blackbird. You're asking a loaded question. You know, it's not a genuine question. You know, you're trying to get like a gotcha moment, right? Because you're really asking is, well, let me see the Earth from outside to see that it's moving. Show me the Earth moving, right? Because that's the only way to be able to show, you know, to be able to answer your question, right? Is to go outside of the Earth and just literally see the Earth moving up relative to you outside of the reference frame, right? That's what you're really asking, which is physically impossible, and you know that. So your question, again, it's completely irrelevant, in my opinion. It's just a cop-out, in other words. You're just squirming at that point, you know? Show me the upwards motion of the Earth then. Come on, show me. Well, I'm showing you based on practical physics. I'm showing you utilizing buoyancy and what's required to recreate buoyancy. Two factors. You need a medium that's more dense than the less dense object, and you require a force as well. And the force has to be moving in the same direction that the buoyant object reacts to. So the direction that the buoyant object is being pushed, that's the direction of the force. And because air is more dense than helium, for example, or helium balloon, then that's the direction that the air is moving. So again, it's very simple, very, very, very simple. So the fact that people are denying that, again, you must have another explanation, again, and not just words, you know, another demonstration of this that just keeps you from accepting the facts, right? Because there's another demonstration, therefore I can't accept that, right? If that was the case, then I'll be on the same boat with you. If there was two practical demonstrations that showed the same effects, then we could all say like, oh shit, we don't know which one it is, because both of these demonstrations are showing the same effects, right? But guess what? There's only one. There's only one. And even if there was another one, another demonstration that can show the same effects, you know, without the air moving, for example, and it's still able to push helium, even if there was another demonstration and another, you know, fact about how buoyancy works, that still doesn't prove it. That just means we have two options now. So the irony there, right? Even if there was another way to do it, that still doesn't prove the globe. Because now there's two explanations, but now we can go to physically measuring the surface of the Earth then at that point, right? But that's the thing, right? There's only one demonstration that can recreate the effects here on Earth. Only one. And that's motion of a contained system. There is no other way, right? And again, the crazy part is that even if there was, that still doesn't prove the globe. That would just mean there's two options now. Like the globe is fucked. Like literally, like the globe Earth is fucked. So the fact that it's just taking this long to push this to the masses just shows the propaganda is running rampant, you know? You know, the propaganda is on full force, you know? And that's the only reason why this hasn't reached the masses, because this is so simple, this is so elementary level, that if you don't get it, there's probably something wrong with you. Like, that's how easy it is. That's how simple it is to understand this, you know? If you don't get it, there's probably something wrong with you. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Oh my God, going to an hour and still nothing. Wow. Blackbird, if you're talking about measuring acceleration in free fall using GPS, that's not physical acceleration of the object moving down. Just a heads up. I don't know if that's your proof of measuring acceleration in free fall. If you're using GPS and a tracking device to measure acceleration in free fall, that is not measuring acceleration of the object in free fall. You're just measuring the gap closing between the Earth and a free-falling object if you're using GPS to measure that acceleration. So if you're using GPS, again, to calculate distance over time, you're not literally measuring a physical downwards acceleration of the object in free fall. You're assuming that the Earth is motionless relative to the free-falling object, and therefore the object must be accelerating down. So again, you're making an assumption. If your measurement of acceleration down is using GPS, you know, because if you want to measure acceleration, proper acceleration, then what better than an accelerometer? You know, if you want to detect acceleration, we should use an accelerometer. Whoa. Because again, if you're just using GPS and you're calculating distance over time, in other words, how long it takes for the object and the Earth to close the gap, then you're not measuring whether the Earth is moving up to the object or if the object is moving down to the Earth. You're just measuring how long it takes for that gap to close. So you're not measuring it. I could say that, okay, well, that's measurement of the upwards rising Earth. If we're using GPS, right, and put in a device on a free-falling object, right? Well, there you go. That's measurement of the upwards rising Earth. Because look, the distance over time, right? that just showed the Earth moved up to the object. It closed the gap, right? Using GPS, right? You could just say either or. It doesn't prove anything at the end of the day. You know what will prove what's moving towards what? An accelerometer. An accelerometer will show you whether it's the Earth moving up to the object or the object moving down to the Earth. So we don't need to be calculating for speed at this point, because that's what GPS does. If you're measuring distance over time with GPS, then you're kind of measuring a speed difference between the free-falling object and the Earth. It has nothing to do with acceleration at that point. You're just measuring a speed difference between the Earth and the free-falling object, and how long it takes for the gap to close. That's what you're measuring. You're not measuring actual acceleration of a free-falling object, right? So I other than that, is there any other way, Blackbird, that you're measuring acceleration in free fall? Because like I just explained, obviously there's flaws in your example, if that was your example. So is there any other way to measure acceleration in free fall, other than GPS or using an accelerometer, for example? Is there another way that nobody knows about? Accelerometers measure force in free fall. There is no force present. Well, let me just rephrase that. Accelerometers measure acceleration, right? Let me just rephrase what you said there. Accelerometers measure acceleration. I'm just going to switch the word force to acceleration. This is what you said. Accelerometers measure acceleration in free fall. There is no acceleration present. You just conceded. If we just change the word from force to acceleration, which is what acceleration is force and force is acceleration, right? This is what you said, Blackbird. Accelerometers measure acceleration. Correct. In free fall, there is no acceleration present. Your words, Blackbird. Your words. You just conceded that there is no acceleration in free fall. Your own words. I only switched force, the word force to acceleration, which is the same thing. And that is what you just conceded. That there is no acceleration in free fall. I mean, it's not hard. Force and acceleration are not the same thing. So what is force, Blackbird? Huh? Blackbird, what's force? If force is not acceleration, you tell me what is force. What is force in your mind? The bending and warping of space-time? Because you said, obviously that's not a force. So what is a force? If acceleration is not a force, or if you have something here in reality and we accelerate it, everybody would have to admit that that is a force. If something is accelerating here on Earth, literally, that's a force. Fact. So now you're saying that acceleration is not a force? Well, what is a force then? Please enlighten me, enlighten us. What, if acceleration is not a force, what the fuck is a force then? What the fuck? You're like digging your own grave right here. And again, if you have a different way to measure acceleration in free fall other than accelerometers and GPS, which again, GPS could be interpreted either way, either, with the Earth moving up or object moving down. When it comes to GPS, again, it's just about, it's just how you interpret it, right? Is there any other way to measure acceleration in free fall? Force is energy conversion. So converting energy into motion, or acceleration, in other words. So force is still acceleration, because you're converting energy, right, which is just a concept, right, into force. So again, you're kind of like having a combustion engine, right? You have potential energy in the gas, right? But when it ignites, you're creating a force, which is still acceleration. You're still going from at rest to motion to create that force from energy, right? So force is still acceleration. In your explanation, it doesn't make any sense still. Force is conversion of energy. Energy conversion, like what? Again, it comes back to force is acceleration. Acceleration is a result of a force. Acceleration is a result of a force. But acceleration requires something else to already be accelerating, which is a force. So a force, to cause acceleration, that force had to be accelerating initially to be a force, to be able to cause acceleration to something else. So you're not making any sense. You're just double speaking, if anything. What the fuck? I'm starting to get like mind twisted now. Like I'm starting to feel my mind going to knots trying to comprehend what you're saying. So I'm just gonna have to shake it off, like unknot my brain a little bit. In other words, pull back a little bit. And I'm getting caught up in your word salad. I'm getting tangled up in your word salad. That's how trolls win at the end of the day, right? They just have to tangle you up in your word salad to the point of no return, to the point where you're completely lost about what the fuck you're even talking about, what the point is, and where the fuck the conversation is going. If a troll can do that to you, the troll won. That's the troll's number one tool, huh? Confusion. That's the Glowbird's number one defense, confusion. Oh man, it's pretty funny. God damn. Yeah, I'm still baffled. I'm not even kidding. Like, let me show you guys. Let me show you guys how much students are passing. Like, let me just show you guys. Look at this. Look at this. All of these students right here going in and out. Like, pretty much non-stop, right? Almost an hour in. And I have no conversation. Baffling. Baffling. Crazy. I'm not even kidding. Like, there's still more students walking. Crazy, crazy. Maybe it's too hot out here for most people. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it is a little warm, but it's not like something to like. It's not 90 degrees. It's not 100 degrees. You know, it's like 80 degrees. You know, so it's a little warm, right? So I don't think it's the weather. People don't want to just stand out here, you know, but it could be. Again. So. Ah. So here's the thing, Blackbird, what you're saying there. It works inversely with deceleration too, which proves it's not the same as acceleration. Okay, so we can say that force is acceleration, but acceleration can also be deceleration, I guess, right? Because I guess that's how they use it in language. Sure, but I'm talking about force in specific. Force in specific is acceleration, even though acceleration can still be deceleration. Sure. Yeah, yeah. There's a change in velocity between two things, right? Then yeah, it's accelerating whether one is decelerating or it's accelerating, right? We will say it's accelerating. There's an acceleration there, right? But we're talking about force in specific. Force in specific is acceleration. Just because, again, acceleration can be deemed as deceleration as well, that still doesn't take from the fact that force is acceleration. That's what you're not getting. So again, you're just trying to like use mental gymnastics to try and prove your point, I guess. But again, you're not proving your point because again, we're talking about force in specific. And if we're talking about force in specific, then yes, acceleration is a force. So if you're claiming acceleration in free fall, then by default you're claiming a force, right? Which obviously Glowbird has admitted that is not there because obviously accelerometers will show that. But you're having to come up with this whole fucking Narnia physics to explain away that fact, right? So now you could have acceleration without a force. So acceleration is not force, right? So that's where all that's coming from. It's from having a bias that the Earth is a globe and objects accelerate down towards it. So now, because obviously there is no measurable force in free fall, well now you're saying, well, acceleration is not necessarily a force because in free fall we obviously see acceleration and there is no force present, so you could have acceleration without a force, you see? But again, all of that is being stemmed from an assumption, from a bias, from something that contradicts physics. So it's not coming, your explanation there, it's not coming from the practical world. It's not coming from reality. It's coming from your imagination. That's the difference. So you claiming that acceleration is not a force, all of that is just coming from your imagination, right? It's not coming from the real world. The real world will show that acceleration is a force, or a force is acceleration, right? Because acceleration could be deceleration, right? Yeah, whatever. But force is acceleration, right? So So again, if we see something accelerating, then yeah, that's a force. If you deny that, then obviously you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled, you've been lied to, and you've been mentally fucked. That's what it comes down to. So come on, man, come on, let's get one conversation. Like, this is ridiculous. Wow, this is crazy. I'm not even lying. There's a bunch of students. Look, you can see in the back right here. Look at all the students that just walked by. Nobody stopped. Crazy. Damn, even at UCLA, I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes without a conversation. Like, crazy. Kind of sucks in a way, but fuck. And I've noticed that coming here is mostly like this. Mostly like this. Now, it could be because of the shade, right? There's no shade, you know, people are not trying to fucking start sweating, right? Or I don't know. Even though I'm kind of sweaty already, you know, but it is what it is, goddammit. Let's see, what do we got? Aiden Stanton, force equals acceleration with some added mass attached. I agree. Rising Earth, 100% William, can't have acceleration without force. Exactly. Because that's what the globe Earth and stationary flat Earth are basically appealing to. You know, that's what they're basically claiming. You know, that's what they're denying, that you can have acceleration without a force, right? You just can't. You just can't. You know, the irony though is that they still utilize, right, the second law, Newton's second law, right, the F equals ma, right? It's crazy how even F equals ma, it's right there. Force equals mass times acceleration. It's in your own equation. It's the globe Earth's own equation. They're literally debunking themselves. You know? F equals ma. Even they admit that. A force is acceleration. If you have a... you know? Like, what the fuck? But yeah, in free fall, it changes. You know, we have new, unfounded, unrecreatable physics, you know, that happen only in free fall, right? Talk about special pleading, you know, it's like, fuck. Like, literally, that's like the literal definition of special pleading, right? Like, fuck. Come on, man. So I seen a little bit of the final debate, right? Like, talk about a cringe fest. Like, fuck. Like, fuck. I watched a little bit of it just because, I mean, there's just nothing to watch when it comes to this subject. Like, there's not a lot of people putting out, you know, real content, I guess you could say, like unbiased, objective truth, content. Like there's not a lot, other than Dell, and I mean I can't even say any more than that. Like let's be real. So sometimes I'll browse the other channels, right? So I seen that they were having the final debate, right? The final experiment. I was curious about it a little bit. I was like, see who calls in and see what they say. Oh my god. What was it? Awake Souls was the first one? Fuck me. Like, is he trying to look stupid on purpose? Like, is he trying to look dumb on purpose? Like I don't get it. Like why would you put yourself out there like that? Like, it's kind of weird, like, and a lot of them were like, I'm not saying all of them were, and I think somebody brought the point about measuring the surface of water being level, right? I think I seen that, somebody brought up that point, and how Will Duffy dismissed it was so fucking stupid. I think he said like, oh, can a square shape or a cube shape have a level surface? So basically what he was saying, so if water is level, but a cube can have a level surface, water, the Earth could be a cube, so therefore water being level cannot be used because there's other shapes that can hold water being level, like a cube. So the Earth could be a cube, apparently, right? So that's how he dismissed water being level. Well, it doesn't mean that it's flat, or because a cube has flat sides to it, so water could be flat on a cube. So now he's claiming that water could be at 45 degree, at a 90 degree angle, like that. So you could have a ocean just level, but then automatically make a 90 degree angle. So apparently that's a thing. Apparently that water level cannot be used as a proof because Earth could be a cube. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? That's literally what he said. What? I was fucking like, what the fuck? I was tripping the fuck out. Not only that, the stupid little rules he had, prove that the Earth is flat, right? Without mentioning the globe, right? So if you unconsciously say globe or something, the debate's over. I win. You didn't follow the rules. You said globe. The debate's done. Like, what kind of fucking debate is? First of all, reality is not up for debate. And the way that this debate went about was, wow, fucking cringy as fuck. Fucking, like, wow. Like, if the whole purpose of that debate was to turn people off to this whole subject, then they did a good job. They did a great job. If the whole purpose of that whole debate was to be pointless and to turn people off to this whole subject, then yeah, they did their job. They did what they set out to do. But when it comes to having an honest discussion about the objective world and what the shape of the Earth actually is, completely failed. It was laughable. It was pathetic. It was like I couldn't even watch like more than like 10, 15 minutes of it, 20 minutes of it. I don't know. I just watched like, could have been more, to be honest. I just wanted to see what different people had to say, but I didn't see all the interviews. But I just seen like the first 3 or 4, and it was like, my God. It was painful to watch. Let's just say that. Not only was it cringy as fuck, it was painful to watch. And yeah, it's fucking crazy, like how most flat earthers, and I'm gonna say most flat earth channels, not most flat earthers, I would say most flat earth channels don't even talk about physics. That's weird, huh? Because the shape of the Earth is an objective subject, it's an objective truth, therefore it falls under natural science, right? It falls under, the science domain, it's physics, right? Because it's physical reality, so it falls under physics, right? But yet over 95% of flat Earth channels are not about physics, are not about science. It's kind of weird. You know, they're either like biblical flat earth channels, they're like just motionless flat earth, you know. That's the majority of them. You know, that covers most of the spectrum of the of those flat earthers. Over 95% of flat earthers, that they all claim the earth is motionless, right? Which has nothing to do with physics. A good chunk of them are biblical flat earthers. You know, you have again a bunch of different kind of flat earth channels, but nothing about physics. No flat earth channels, quote unquote, you know, or that are mainly focusing on physics aspects of it, other than me and Dell, you know. Like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Oh, and then here's the other one, drama. There's the other genre of flat earth channels is like drama flat earth channels, where they just talk shit about other people, you know. And just, who's a good example of that, in my opinion, is Q and Fee. Q and Fee, for those of you who know that channel, that is an example of a flat earth, in my opinion, of a flat earth. I don't even know if he's a flat earther, to be honest. Just like a drama channel, just like a flat earth troll, drama instigator type of content, right? You see a lot of that when you come into this flat earth bullshit, and most of them are motionless flat earthers, you know, to be fair. And a lot of them are Christian flat earthers as well, so there's like 3 in 1 right there. You know, you got the drama channels that are Christian and believe the earth is motionless. You got the trifecta right there. That sums up the majority of flat earth channels right now for anybody who's new to this. Which most of those channels are bullshit. They're focusing on the wrong thing. They're focusing on personalities. They're focusing on subjective beliefs. They're focusing on anything but physics. So it makes me question, like, are these people really that fucking dumb? Or are they on task? Right? Because it comes down to those two things, you know. Either they're really that fucking dumb, or they're on task. I mean, what's another option? Right? I can't even think of another option. At the end of the day, it's irrelevant anyway, you know. But Aiden, acceleration and deceleration both describe changes in an object's velocity, but the key difference is that the direction of change is the direction of change. Yes, Aiden. I completely agree. Yeah, that's the difference. What's changing, right? And in what direction, right? Yeah. Yep. That's where most globe earthers and motionless flat earthers, that's what they miss. It's the main point of what's actually moving and in what direction. That is the key. Blackbird William, we can debate all day long. At the end of the day, it comes down to one thing. What can your model do better than the globe model? Name just one thing. First of all, I don't have a model of the Earth, but what reality shows me is that, you said just name one can your model better than one. Well, water, when contained at rest, forming an equal surface. Obviously, that doesn't fit the globe, so that's one thing. And it's not just a model; it's part of the physical world. You know, water when contained at rest. That's one, for instance. Acceleration without displacement. Again, acceleration requiring a force, debunking that there's a pulling force of gravity and that the force of the Earth is actually up. So physics will show again that the globe Earth is impossible and that the Earth must be a level plane that's in upwards motion. At least the surface of the Earth that we occupy is a level, right? What's on the sides, what's underneath, what's the shape of it as a whole, I don't know. But the surface that human beings live on the Earth is level. So again, the force of the Earth, the upwards push of the Earth will show that. Again, it's not a model, that's reality, which does not fit a globe Earth, which 100% debunks a globe Earth. So that's two things right there. You asked for one, I gave you two. So again, I don't need a model to debunk the globe Earth. Yeah, I don't need to make assumptions about the stars and the sun, and assumptions about the layout of the continents and all that to debunk the globe. I don't need to do that. I don't need to make assumptions about anything to debunk the globe. So therefore, I don't need a model to debunk the globe, right? I just need physics. Physical reality shows me that the globe Earth is impossible. the physics of water when contained at rest show me, and the fact that there is no displacement and acceleration in free fall also shows me that there is no acceleration of gravity in free fall, and that the force of the Earth is up. Again, buoyancy shows me that. Again, it's not up for debate, but if you want to debate that, then you need to come to the table with a different explanation, or I mean a different demonstration, other than, again, the medium moving in the same direction to push the buoyant object. You know. So again, an upwards moving Earth completely debunks the whole heliocentric model, the whole globe Earth model. So yeah. So you asked for one, I gave you two. And better than that, I gave you practical references and demonstrations that you can recreate yourself, other than just an explanation, other than just a baseless explanation. Because that's what happens with the globe Earth versus flat Earth debate. What happens is, it's not even about physics anymore. It's about the explanations of my model of a flat Earth, motionless flat Earth, versus your explanations of a spinning globe. And then who has the better observations and explanations wins the debate. So again, it has nothing to do with physics. It's gone into the realms of stupidity at this point. I mean, it was like that from the start, but yeah, this whole debate, globe Earth versus flat Earth, again, it's just a distraction. It's not proving anything. And anyone that follows that debate and thinks and gives it any validity just shows that you've been tricked, I guess, into another, into a false debate, into a false dichotomy. There you go. You've just been tricked into a false dichotomy. That's what happened. Wow. An hour and 13 minutes and 0 conversations. That is wild. That is wild. Level denotes orientation. Yep. Level shows that there is an orientation, obviously. Yep. Obviously, the true reference frame is the plumb, right? The vertical force, obviously, is the true point of reference, which, level is a result of that, right? But yeah, level does denote, it does show that there is orientation, obviously, here on Earth, because the water obviously just doesn't orientate itself the way it does for no reason, or with no cost, right? Obviously, there is a cost to that, and water, reacts to that in the form of orientating, of the orientation of the water, So water level denotes orientation, which denotes that there's a force present. So again, it's all just a chain reaction, of one thing, one force. Come on, give me one conversation. Yeah, I wonder if I would have had the "Are you smarter than a fifth grader?" then maybe I would have had more conversations. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yesterday I had a long day at work. Like, fuck. So today I'm like really sore, and yeah, like fuck. I woke up and I was pretty sore. I was like, damn. Like, I almost skipped coming out, but I was like, fuck. I was like, I think this is like the last week of the summer classes, and then they start again at the end of September. So I was like, fuck, if I don't go out today, I may have to just wait till the end of September. So I was like, fuck, I'll just go have the day off, And then I came to USC too, because it's the one that's closest to my house too. That's another reason why I came here. Yeah, I just don't want to be driving back through traffic, fucking an hour and 45 minutes, an hour 40 minutes from UCLA, for example. Like, fuck that. That drive back home from UCLA is a bitch. The 15-mile lake near my house doesn't bend 100 feet across, equivalent to an 8-story building. Exactly. And we could use other instruments, I think, you know, that can do that measurement too, you know, I'm pretty sure. But then the globe Earth would just say, oh, it's because it's calibrated to gravity. So it's gonna show its level, but that's because it's a level, you know, equidistance from the center of the sphere to the outer circumference. So that's why it's level. It's just changing. So it just shows that it's level, right? But yeah, again, just an explanation, right? To dismiss. That's why a direct physical measurement, right, of the Earth it's what's required, in my opinion. Because there's always gonna be a cop out. There's always gonna be an explanation if you're just using like some kind of device to measure a plumb line and then measure the other plumb line, or to measure the elevation changes from one point to another, right? Because GPS does that. GPS does measure your elevation change, right? But on a globe Earth, let's say you're 10 feet above sea level, right? You do a marking, and you're on a lake, right? That's 10 miles across, right? At the beginning of the lake, you go, let's say you're at 10 feet above sea level, right? We'll say 50 feet above sea level, right? And then at the other end of the lake, you take the same device, like a GPS, you know, to measure height, you know, and distance. It measures, you know, at the same distance from the water. At the other end of it still measures the same elevation as the, you know, 10 miles across. You know, that would show obviously that the surface of water is level, because it's showing the same elevation on both ends when you're only 1 foot above the water, for example. Let's say you're a foot above the water, you get an exact measurement of height there. We'll say it's like 50 feet above sea level. Then you go again at the 10 miles across, you do another foot elevation above the water, and it measures the exact same elevation as it did 10 miles ago. The globe Earth explanation would be, again, that the thing is calibrated to the, you know, the level, meaning it's the equal distance from the center to the outer circumference of the Earth. So yeah, there was a change, but it changed as you went. So it auto-corrected, you know, every mile until you got to the 10th mile. So that's why it shows the same elevation. It's because it's called curving together, right? Type of thing, right? So they'll have an explanation for that, you know. So again, building a level structure that we can all agree, okay, this is a horizontal structure, right? This is a level structure, right? We put it above water. Now, if the water truly is bending, then that water should deviate from that structure, a physical structure, you know, that cannot be denied, right? Because again, using GPS, using things to measure altitude, using things, you know, stuff like that, there's gonna be cop-outs to that, you know. Just like with planes, airplanes flying level, you know, at cruising altitude, for example. They don't have to adjust for the Earth's curve. Oh, well, the gravity just auto-corrects, right? So again, there's explanations for stuff like that, you know, and I get it, sure. So that's why we build a physical structure, you know, that one that, again, we can all agree, yeah, this is a horizontal structure. Now, we can measure to see if water does deviate from that, or if it remains parallel to it. And again, it should deviate at the rate they tell us, which is 8 inches per mile squared. So again, in 10 miles, it should be a 66-foot deviation. Which again, if anybody believes that's there, yeah, then yeah, physical measurement of that is going to be required. So, okay. Come on, let's get one. Equinox hasn't QNF recently been debunking Rising Earth. He's been trying to, I think, but all he has is insults and name calling and little memes, you know. Yeah, you can try all day, you know. You can't debunk reality, you know. But yeah, he's against truth. He's against the truth, the objective truth about the Earth rising up. Yeah. Again, that's just an example of a drama channel. He just wants to stir up drama and make it about personalities and just people attacking other people, and it's just childish. It's pathetic. You know, how old is he, right? Acting just childish. You know, again, nothing personal. It's not a personal attack. It's just based on the content he puts out. You know, I'm just judging the content. I'm not really judging him as a person. You know, other than, I mean, he looks like he's like an older guy, like maybe in his 50s. I don't know, but to be acting this childish or just, you know, like, I don't know. It's questionable, that's for sure. Aiden Stanton, what's the laser experiment? The laser experiment, I think is you're referring to. It could be like one of the first flat Earth experiments that was done, where you go to a lake, you have a laser, like a giant laser, right? And you, let's say you elevate that laser, say a couple of, like 5 feet above the lake, above the level of the lake, right? The water. And another thing is you have to make sure that the laser is completely 100% level, right? So 5 foot above the lake level, right? And technically, when you shoot the laser across the lake, if you have like a wall or something that can receive the laser beam, right? You're able to measure how the distance between the water and the laser where it hit, right? So the thing is about laser experiments is that there's refraction that happens, because when you shine light through moisture, for example, the air, you're gonna get refraction. So the laser is gonna start to bend, and you know, depending on you know, the refraction, how much refraction there is, and therefore you're gonna get an inconclusive answer every time shining a laser to measure the levelness of water. So that's what the laser experiment try to do, is to try and measure the levelness of water. So but yeah, obviously it was a faulty experiment, you know, that was pushed on purpose. No way I'm gonna go the whole 2 hours with no conversation. Like, that is crazy. It's probably the first time this happens. If I don't get a conversation in the whole 2 hours that I'm out here, it's probably the first time that happens. It's probably happened one other time. I can't really remember. I can't remember if it happened one other time, but other than that, this would be like literally one of the only times that has happened. And it's not like it was empty. Like, it's not like it was a ghost town with no students walking, right? Because sometimes it's been like that when I came here before, where it's like just literally a ghost town. There's literally no students whatsoever. The USC village here is even empty. You know, there's nobody really in there. So then, and even then, I got a few conversations. You know, it might not have been students, but it was just people like walking by, right? So it's pretty crazy that with all of these students walking back and forth, obviously I'm visible here. You know, it's not like I'm in the corner somewhere where you can't see the table. So it's pretty crazy that I haven't got a conversation. And it's gonna be crazier if I don't get one by the time I'm done. That would be crazy. Come on, man, just trying to get one. Just one conversation, huh? Is that too much to ask for? Apparently it is, huh? Fuck. Come on. I'm not even lying. If I was to just close my eyes right here like that, like I would probably fall asleep. It's crazy. I'm not gonna lie, I am a little tired. You know, fucking life, work, you know, takes a toll at the end of the day. And yeah, I mean, coming out here is not as easy as it should be, you know, in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, we gotta put the effort at least, you know, because I would feel more like shit if I didn't come out and do this. Like, I would just feel like, I don't know, like I'm kind of contributing to all the bullshit happening, because at the end of the day, that's how they want us. They just want us to just sit and not do anything, not to push back against the system. They don't want us to push back. They want us just to be sedated and just go along to get along, right? That's what they want. So if I don't come out and do this, it kind of feels like I'm just fueling that, you know, and it just kind of makes me feel more like shit, like, you know. So I kind of come out here kind of to decompress as well, like for my own sanity, you know, and at the same time to try and push this forward, you know. But yeah, it's definitely not as easy as it should be, you know. But especially here in the States, you know, especially in a main city like this, in LA or New York, Chicago, Miami, I'm pretty sure anybody that lives in those cities, it's not gonna be that easy to work a full-time job and still come out to do this, you know. I know it's not that easy, especially when you have days off. You know, you want those days off to kind of just rest, you know, because you're gonna have to go back to work for a whole week again. So you kind of need at least a day to recoup, but sometimes a day is not enough, you know. So you want to take both days to just, you know, really relax, you know, to do something, you know, productive at home, right? You know, you got stuff to do at home as well, and it's just fun. Honestly, if I didn't have the job that I have now, I don't know if I'll be able to make the time to come out and do this. The fact that, you know, I'm able to take extra days off to come out and do this is like probably the only reason why I'm able to come out to do this, you know. And it kind of sucks, you know, that we're in this kind of situation, you know. It does suck. But I mean, yeah, again, if we don't do anything, if nobody does anything, then nothing's gonna change. That's just how the cookie crumbles, right? If nobody does anything, then don't expect anything to change. If you don't do anything and expecting change, then you're delusional. You're literally delusional. You're just waiting for someone else to do all the work for you, and that's not how it works. That's not how this reality works. I mean, that's not the system we find ourselves in, right? Somebody else is doing all the work for someone else that's profiting from all of that, right? That's not how it should be, though. I don't know how exactly it should be, but I can tell you how it should not be. You know, just like I can't say exactly what the Earth is, but I can tell you that it's not a globe. I can tell you what it's not. That doesn't mean I know exactly what it is, right? But I can tell you what it's not. Just like a way of living. Yeah, I don't know exactly how we should be living. You know, I think that's subjective. I think different people are gonna live different ways, you know, to fit their own means, right? So I don't know exactly how we should be living, right? Because that's different with different people. But I can tell you how we shouldn't be living, which is how we're living now. Having, you know, a dictatorship, having this hierarchy structure, you know, of authority, and, you know, having other human beings tell you what to do and how to live and all that. And that's not how we should be living, you know. But again, that doesn't mean that I know exactly how we should be living, right? So again, you know, that logic, you know, is the same when it comes to the shape of the Earth. Like, I don't know exactly what the Earth is as a whole, right? I know the surface is level and everything, you know, and I know the Earth is not a globe, but that doesn't mean I know everything about the Earth. Just because I know it's not a globe and I know pulling force of gravity doesn't exist, that doesn't mean that I know exactly what it is, you know, and I can answer every question. Again, to debunk something doesn't require you to have a replacement. You don't need a replacement to debunk something, you know? Kevin, only just joined anyway, he is unsufferable though. I don't know what that's referring to. Reading that out of context. Oh, okay, not me. No worries, Kevin. Aiden, do you think this place is designed to confuse us? I don't think so. I mean, if you're talking about government and their structure of society and their, you know, everything they push, then yeah, they're designing all of that to confuse us. But the creator itself, God, whatever that is, that put this reality, you know, into motion and made this reality happen, I don't think they did it to try and confuse us. I think whatever created this wants us to like understand, you know, at least basic principles, right? Basic physics. And that's why it's very easy to understand, you know, in my opinion, because it's not, this reality wasn't created to try and trick us, in my opinion. I think it was here just to experience it and understand, you know, our limits and explore it, you know, play with it, you know, have fun with it. I think that's what it could have been, you know. Again, I don't know that for a fact, because it could be the completely, you know, the complete opposite of that. It could literally be a prison, you know, that's keeping us from the true reality of, you know, of what's outside of this, or what's bigger than this, of what encompasses this, right? So this could easily be like some kind of prison. So I don't know when it comes down to it, but at the end of the day, reality is very easy to understand in a sense of cause and effect. When cause and effect happens, right? We have our senses and we're able to understand things in this reality, right? And that's how technology was invented and advanced, right? So yeah, I don't think the creator of this place created this place to confuse us. You know, if anything, it was more to have an experience of it, you know, if anything, which comes with having a good understanding, you know, or having somewhat of an understanding. If you're gonna have, if you want to have a good experience, you need to have some understanding of it, you know, which is what I think is, you know, more plausible in my opinion. But obviously, the system at play do want to confuse us, right? The government, other human beings do want to confuse us, that's for sure. I guarantee you though, if I had the $100 challenge, I would have for sure got a couple of conversations by now. The $100 challenge, huh? Fuck. Who couldn't use $100, huh? Especially a college student, right? What college student couldn't use $100, huh? Again, when it comes to common sense, right? What makes more sense for us to be standing on? Is it makes more sense for someone to be standing here, here, and here on the side, on two sides and on top? What makes more sense? Someone standing here and on two sides at the same time, or someone standing here, here, and here? So 3 different people on 3 different parts of the earth, and 3 different people on different parts of the earth. What makes more sense? Of 3 people standing, you know, on a globe, one on top and 2 on the sides, or on a level surface, one towards the center and the other 2 towards the opposite ends. What makes more sense, right? That's what it comes down to, you know. But if gravity's pulling you down, then it makes sense from a globe, because it's coming from the center. You see, it's not just coming from the earth, it's coming from the center of the earth. So that is what creates a sphere. So everything is, you know, everyone is just stuck onto a sphere because gravity is at the center. And you have to say that because obviously they just said gravity just pulls you towards it because of its mass, right? Then that could still work from a level surface, right? If it was just mass attracting mass, then technically, right, the Earth, even if it was level, it's still mass. It should still attract other mass, but they have to add that it's the center, right? Because then that's how they explain that it's a globe. It's the center. That's how it was created, because it just started pulling everything to a center and it created a sphere. And that's why the Earth is a sphere. Because gravity comes from the center. The force of gravity comes from the center, right? So again, that's just a mean assumption. Like, a mean assumption. You know? But again, it's just there to explain away, or just to explain how a globe Earth obviously works. Kevin would like to hear more of William's opinion on tides. Yeah, I think I have a video explaining the tides. If you go to my live streams, I did like an open live stream a few months ago. It was about 2 hours long, but if you watch that video, it's in the title too. I think in the title it's talking about tides. The first like 30 minutes of that video, I get into like detail and you know, to what I think the tides are and where, you know, and what's required for the tides to be there again. But again, that's just my opinion. At the end of the day, again, it's completely irrelevant when it comes to the shape of the Earth, in my opinion. But yeah, if you're interested, the video is there. It's one of the live streams, open panel live streams that I've done. But yeah. Man, so far disappointing. Oh man, no way, come on. goodness. My goodness. My goodness. Glen Rowe, did you forget your banner, William? I know, it's like I'm sitting out here just with no banner, no question. Imagine I forgot to put it. And that's why nobody stopped. Nah, it's right here. It's right here. That would have been funny as fuck, huh? Like, I'm all tripping out. Why are people not stopping? Why are people not stopping? Then I check and I never put up the banner. That's funny. I mean, at this point, like, I'm just gonna try to pass out some flyers at this point, right? Like, if anybody like makes eye contact with me, just have a flyer ready, right? Again, that's another thing about when it comes to this subject that I've learned, obviously, over the years, is that you cannot push this subject onto people. Like, even though it's an objective truth, and even though it's reality, it's literally the physical world that we all share, right? Even though it has to do with the biggest lie on earth, right? That obviously accelerate down in free fall. Even though it's that important, it's the the biggest lie on earth. That can, and it's the easiest to debunk, to top it off, right? Even though that's the case, this cannot be pushed onto people. You cannot force this information onto people, So again, you could try and do that, right, by coming out with like giant banners, right, with having your main proofs on the banners. But again, you might get some people that are a little curious and might stop and talk about it, but the majority of people are just gonna ignore it. They're just gonna maybe see what it's about, and once they realize that it's about the shape of the earth, they're just gonna ridicule it and walk away. Again, because you can't force this into people, right? Onto people. You can't force this onto people. That's a better way to say it. And again, that's why it becomes like a personal journey at the end of the day. Like, yeah, it's cool if you could have a conversation to someone that's open and introduce the subject to them, right? Or give them a little intro. More than half the time you're gonna get people just walk away after cut the conversation short, and half the time you're gonna get people that are actually interested in the subject and are gonna want to learn more, right? And all you can do at that point is share some information with them, maybe some links, that they can take home and maybe use that as a reference to start their own research. And hopefully, the gears start turning, and hopefully, you plant a seed, But other than that, other than planting seeds, it's like, it's not that easy to have this conversation out in public, especially if people just don't care, right? If people don't care, then what kind of conversation are you gonna have? It's gonna be pointless at the end of the day, So just be aware of that, At the end of the day, forcing anything, forcing learning, forcing information, forcing anything, when you start to force it, it's just eventually gonna fall apart. It's not a good thing to force anything. You should take your time, and just don't force it. Let it come naturally, type of thing. Let it happen naturally. you know, as least force as possible. You know, it's when you become like this militant, you know, forcing in on everybody type of person that people are turned off by that now. Like, oh, you're just this crazy. That's what happened to like the vegan movement type of thing, right? Like, veganism, you see that a lot. Like a lot of people that are vegan, they really push it on other people, and I get it. You know, I get where they're coming from. You know, I'm vegan myself, so I get where they're coming from. But at the same time, it's kind of detrimental because again, that's something that people are just gonna have to come on their own. And again, it's cool to share information, and again, people just have to come to it on their own, and just trying to like talk shit to people and attacking people, and it's just not gonna work. Like forcing people, like it's like you can't force people to have morals type of thing, right? So therefore you can't force people to use logic and common sense, right? So it's like almost the same thing, right? You can't force someone to have common sense, right? Either you have it or you don't, or you have the patience for it to listen to what I have to say, or you don't, or you care about the subject or not. You know, that's all personal. You know, son of a bitch, man, son of a bitch. Still no conversation, right? The crazy part is that because most people have like a negative connotation towards vegans, right? Or vegans have kind of like a bad rep, right? I don't like to label myself as a vegan anyway, but when it comes to, like, when other people, like, I don't even like to say I'm vegan, just because I know the kind of thing that comes with that, right? Like being labeled a vegan. People already have like their views on vegan people, right? Or people that are vegan. So I usually like to say that I'm plant-based, just to avoid all that, you know, or just say that, you know, I'm allergic to dairy or something like that, right? I tend to avoid the word vegan, you know, when it comes to labeling myself. You know, I normally just say that I'm plant-based, you know. Everybody knows plant-based, you know, as well. So yeah, it's just, you know, labels to me kind of suck, obviously, but yeah. Either you have common sense or you don't. Either you are vegan or you do not. Yeah. Again, you can't force these things on people. You know, even objective truth can be forced on people. You know, so yet alone subjectivity about what we should be eating. You know, because at the end of the day, it is subjective. You know, yes. Animals do die. Yes, I get it. Again, I completely get where vegans are coming from, because me myself, I am an animal lover. I love animals. You know, dogs, cats. You know, I respect them. I admire animals. Actually, I don't even know. I admire animals. I can just sit and watch animals. I mean, isn't that for everyone, right? That's why there's zoos. Because people like to watch animals and how they interact and how they are and stuff like that, because it's deep in us, you know, we're fascinated by animals. So why the fuck would we eat something that we're fascinated about, in my opinion, you know? I guess some people's fascination of the taste is greater than the fascination of the bean itself, so I guess that's where that would come from again, but yeah, again, so I get where vegans are coming from, because I care about animals. I would nurture an animal rather than kill it, in my opinion. You know, it's just me, right? But I'm not gonna push that morality that I have on other people. You know, I know that a lot of people just don't care, and that's fine. You have the right not to care. You know, you do have that right not to care, and that's why I'm not like that. That's why I don't even like to label myself as a vegan, because most obviously vegans, you know, will be pushy type of thing, right? And I'm not. So yeah, it's just me, and that's just my experience. Hey, it looks like somebody might come to the table, but they're like looking at it, they're looking back. Come on, if I could get one, that would be so cool, but it looks like they're just waiting for the light. But yeah. Ah. They were like looking back at the table a few times. They broke neck. It looked like they were gonna be filmed, but now they just walked away. That sucks.
You guys would love the girl that I had that day. Like, she was just so
No way. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change the battery on my action camera. I'm gonna try to go another 30 minutes or so. Maybe change the camera first, because I don't want it to die. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to go another 30 minutes. And hopefully we can get one, you know. Come on, come on, come on. All right, switch the battery. There we go. All right. Round 2, right? Fuck me. Fuck. Oh my god. There we go. There we go. I know, Andrew. You're telling me. I know. I'm tripping out. And again, I'm gonna show you guys again. It's been like this every time there's a light. There's always students. I mean, there's obviously more students than other times, but look at how many students are on that side, about across this way. The people that are walking out of a USC village. The people again that see the table on that side. I've had people pass by in a car before, see this table, and go park to come and talk to me. So again, I've had people that are driving that see the table that are curious about it, that literally park and come talk to me because they were curious about the table, you know. So the fact that nobody has stopped out of all these students, like it's crazy. Oh, the students even looking over? Yeah, they are. They're looking at the table. There's no way you can miss it, you know. But yeah, nobody stopped. Crazy. I'm thinking, could it be the question? Do you trust your common sense? Like, should I have put, are you smarter than a 5th grader? Yeah, so pretty weird. Pretty weird. Andrew, maybe they've been told not to engage with you, William. I know, it's far-fetched, but imagine? Nah, I doubt it, but you still can't dismiss it. You know, that'll be some crazy ass shit, you know? Nah, I doubt it. Plus, I don't even come to USC that often. I mean, I do. Well, I mean, I haven't for sure, like in the last few weeks. Mainly because of the heat right here. There's no shade, so obviously during summer or 90-degree weather, like hell no. I seen today the forecast was only like 79 degrees, 80 degrees. So I was like, fuck it, that seems about right. You know, I could use a little tan. Fuck it. Come on, though, man. This is ridiculous. Wow. Fuck me. It's getting pretty windy out here. Oh my god. Yeah, I've even had people stop when they're on bicycles, on their scooters, like, you know. They go out of their way, you know, to stop, you know, other times, you know, so. There's no way. Bates, truther, do you think what you're doing is dangerous? I don't know. I mean, not really. Like, when you mean dangerous, what do you mean? Like just with like other, I mean, I'll answer it both ways, with the public and in government, right? So with the public, is it dangerous? I mean, it could be. Obviously, people are unhinged, you know, people don't have their emotions in check, right? So it could be dangerous in the sense where you don't know how people are going to act, right? You know, a lot of people don't have nothing to lose, you know, and could get triggered by the subject, you know. Maybe a camera, you know, my cameras would kind of like keep people in check a bit, but at the end of the day, people are still going to do what they want to do. And yeah, it could be dangerous in that sense where, you know, the public, you know, can try and, you know, get physical or something like that. And it can also be dangerous in a sense where, you know, I've thought about this before, you know, like, you know, government take people out too, you know. So if there's someone that's actually making a big difference, right? Like, I would say maybe if a celebrity came out, you know, and started saying what I'm saying, you know, started you know, representing the upwards rising Earth, for example, right? The objective facts using physics, right? Like, if a celebrity was to come out and actually push for that, you know, using actual physics, then I could say that it could be dangerous for them in a sense where the government could take them out. You know, what does that mean? I don't know. They could be killed. They could be removed. They could be bribed. There's a lot of different ways that someone with high influence could be removed from the scene, right? There's different ways to remove someone from the scene, especially if you have a large following, right? So again, it could get dangerous in that sense where you could get removed, right? Because you're making too much sense and you have a large following. So I guess, again, in that sense, it could be dangerous too, you know. But overall, if I had to say, you know, I would say it's not, you know, especially if you're recording. You know, at the end of the day, you're just sharing simple facts with people, you know, just having normal human conversations about your reality. I mean, this conversation about the Earth and about the reality we live in and what it is and all that, I would say is like one of the oldest conversations that has ever existed in mankind. Is questioning our existence, is questioning this reality, questioning, admiring, you know, tripping out on this reality. So this conversation to me, it's so fundamental to our being. The fact that people are running away from it just shows how brainwashed people are. Because even, you know, I'm using this term loosely, even in the beginning of time, right? Again, people would trip out on this reality. People would question this reality. People would talk about this reality. People would, again, question their own existence and what it actually is, and then, you know, how far does the Earth extend and how big is this area, you know, that we live on, you know, this earth, right? So all of these are very intuitive questions, in my opinion. It's like, again, very fundamental, you know, to talk about all that stuff. It should be in our core, right? So again, it's just the fact that people are running away from that conversation again, it just shows how deep the brainwash goes, you know? So at the end of the day, talking to other human beings, you know, about the reality and about our existence is one of the most human things we could do. I wouldn't say obviously it's the most human thing, but it's one of the most human things we can do. Something we've done since the beginning of time. Again, I'm using that term loosely, but you know what I mean, you know? Even back in the day, you know? So it's only common sense, you know what I'm saying? To trip out on the reality, to explore it, to, you know, to try and understand it, you know? Stuff like that. And that's why they gave us this false understanding, this false model, to take that from people. Now anybody that questions that now, oh, you must be crazy. You're a flat earther, right? Oh, and they just run away. So having a genuine conversation, you know, about our existence and this reality is like, it's taboo nowadays. The irony, right? This one thing that makes us, you know, human, right? To have this wonder, to have this, you know, having this level of consciousness kind of comes with that, right? It comes with questioning your surroundings. It comes with questioning your environment. It comes with questioning the self, right? Because a lot of, I don't know if you guys ever seen, like, there's gorillas that have learned sign language, right? I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of that. Like, there's this, like, gorilla that knew how to communicate using sign language, literally. The one thing that the gorilla didn't do was ask questions. So the gorilla never asked questions. That's one thing. So that's one thing that could be a common thing amongst animals, where they're just experiencing the reality in the moment as is, and they don't really wonder or question, right, their existence. So again, obviously I'm saying that very ignorantly, because obviously I'm not an animal. I don't know exactly what their intuition is, or their consciousness, and how they perceive reality, right, and what kind of thoughts they have, right? But based on this gorilla that learned sign language, right, and it learned it really well throughout its whole life, eventually died of old age. But one thing they noticed is that he never asked questions. I don't know if it was a female or a male, to be honest, but the gorilla never asked questions. So in my opinion, that's one thing as human beings that we all share, that we all have in common, is having this ability to question our existence, to question this reality, to wonder, right? Which most people don't have nowadays. So again, you could say that, again, it's just, so yeah, it's just bizarre, you know? It's about getting that back. You know, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, next time I will definitely do the 5th grader question. Obviously, I don't know if it has something to do with the question. I don't know if it had something to do with not having shade here. You know, I don't know. I don't know what it was. But for sure, next time I'm just gonna do the "Are you smarter than a 5th grader" here, because obviously nobody trusts their common sense around here, and nobody wants to. And nobody wants to have a discussion about it, so so that's that. Equinox, yeah, trying to force veganism onto others. It could be counterproductive. Yeah, I think it could be. It could be, yeah. Again, people could just, at that point, just completely ignore it, the whole subject, just because of this one person that ticked them off the wrong way. Now, because of that person, you know, fuck that, fuck this, you know, fuck, you know, so it could definitely turn people off completely to it. You know, your approach, obviously, I think your approach has a lot to do with it. And that's why when it comes to public speaking, you gotta be as least aggressive, as least confrontational, and just try to remain open and objective. Like, again, when it comes to public conversations, you gotta remain completely unbiased. You gotta be open to what people have to say, hear them out, and that's the only way to have a good back and forth. And the other person has to do the same. They have to be open, they have to be honest, they have to be willing to listen to you, they have to be willing to listen to the points that are being made and actually put them into practice, right? And then doing this back and forth, if you have any questions for me, and if I have any questions for you, about what's being presented, then that's how we have a constructive conversation, But when your emotions start to get in the way, when you have beliefs start to get in the way, like if you have a bias towards something being true starts to get in the way, then it's going to become a battle at that point. Not only is it not going to lead anywhere good, but now you're going to start becoming conversational now. You're going to start to get a bit more aggressive, right? Your emotions are going to start to get more ignited, right? Because now it's a battle. Now it's about winning, right? And that's the thing, it's not about winning. Winning, it's about understanding. And if you understand, you already won. So it's not about winning, at the end of the day. It's about understanding. That's what it's about. So if you can't find common ground, in a conversation, in my opinion, then either obviously they weren't ready for that conversation. They're intellectually, they're not there yet, to have a conversation, so yeah, at the end of the day, just try to be as least confrontational as possible. As least aggressive as possible, and just remain logical, remain sound, remain calm, that's another thing. Like, it's okay to get a little bit emotional, it's fine. It's part of being human, obviously, but don't let it get out of hand, in my opinion, So, again, I'm talking about having a public conversations. You guys want to give it a shot?
Yeah, wait, what is this?
So, I have two very...
What's your name?
My name is William, by the way.
William, Sean, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm William. Nice to meet you. So, I have two
What's
very...
jar?
Oh, yeah, thank you, yeah. Well,
I see.
It's about what I'm going to present here, but we'll get to it. So, it's two very easy multiple choice questions.
Okay.
So, to see if you guys trust your common sense.
Yeah.
So, here I have a box truck. So, 3 different box trucks, and there's an apple hanging from a string inside of it. Another thing to note is that all of these box trucks are on a level surface. The only difference between these 3 box trucks is that one is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
You got it? I got it. Can I say the same thing?
Nah, you say it first.
B, yes, it is B. So why would you say B?
Why would I say B? Well, just general physics principles on
Yes.
vectors.
Example, yeah.
But it depends. You also said, I'm assuming you're giving me a priori system. So, like you said,
They're all on a level surface. Yes, because somebody said that this could be at rest on a hill, which is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I have to say...
I'm also assuming that there's no friction.
Yeah, okay.
Or resistance. So
Yeah, another thing, obviously, the box is completely sealed. Like I said,
yeah. So it's like you're dealing with a vacuum. So yeah,
so obviously, and the reason is because the ball is not swinging in any direction. So the apple's not moving in any direction.
Yeah.
Therefore, obviously, this is the one at rest. It's not moving, right? So out of these 2, then A and C, which one's accelerating forward?
This one's
Yes. So how do you know that one's accelerating forward?
Same thing. Like looking at the vector in a vacuum.
Yeah. So it has to do with inertia.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, the resistance to change.
Is that what Newton's second law?
Yeah, it's the first law.
First law?
Yeah. So obviously, an object at rest will stay at rest unless there's a force acting on it. So obviously, the force of the truck pushing in this direction, obviously, this is able to resist that force, and it just remains in this position.
Yeah.
So it appears to swing back.
Is this going to be like a representation of the brain in CTE or something?
It'll be a representation of what I'm asking.
Okay.
So this one is pretty similar, but instead of an apple, it's a helium balloon inside the truck. So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
This one's at rest.
Yes.
This one's forward. And this one reverse.
Okay. This one is actually reversed and this one's actually
Oh, that's right, because density.
density differences. So in this scenario, obviously helium is less dense than air.
Yeah.
So when you apply a force in this direction, all of the air that's inside of the box truck is also being pushed in that same direction through space. So because air is more dense than helium, is able to push the less dense object in that same direction. So again, that's what we will call buoyancy. It's when a less dense object gets pushed by the medium that surrounds it in a particular direction. In this case, being this direction, right? So, and I can demonstrate that here. Like this is an accelerometer. It's a buoyant object inside of water. So obviously, water is more dense than this red ball. So if I accelerate in this direction, what do you think the ball is going to go? Yes, it's going to go with the direction of the force because water is more dense than helium.
And that's
right?
assuming constant momentum, right?
Well, acceleration.
Yeah.
Talking about acceleration, yes, exactly. So I did this experiment with the apple and a helium balloon inside of a box truck myself, and I want to see if you guys can tell what direction I accelerated. Here it is.
Is this for like some like?
It's a kind of, you could say that. I know this the brightness is a little low here, but can you see the helium balloon and the apple hanging?
Yeah.
Did I accelerate to the right or to the left?
That way.
Yes, exactly, because obviously the helium balloon reacted to that push, right? So another thing is basically matter will always react to acceleration, you know? And again, I did it on a smaller scale with different states of matter. So a ping pong ball inside of water that's buoyant and then a steel ball that's hanging. So in this scenario, what direction did I accelerate? To the right or to the left? Yes, exactly, because the buoyant follows the direction of the force. So here, last one. I did a vertical acceleration. So again, matter always reacts to acceleration, right? So I had a water bottle with a ping pong ball and a steel ball like this, and I only accelerated one of them down vertically. Which one of these two did I accelerate down from being at rest? The one on the left or the one on the right? Yes, the one on the right. Obviously, because it shows a change, you know, it reacts to a force. So let me ask you guys this: if I'm holding a bottle like this, for example, and it's at rest, and I release it into free fall, do you believe gravity pulled it down to the earth?
Gravity pulled it down to the earth.
Yeah, do you think gravity accelerated the bottle down to the earth, right? So here's the thing: the one on the left was actually free fall, but we see that matter didn't react to that acceleration. So I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just the theory. So a physical downwards acceleration of matter has never been detected because matter doesn't react to a force in free fall. And that's why Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, because there is no force in free fall. It's the bending and warping of space-time. That's what Einstein came up with, because there is no physical downward acceleration in free fall. But if we understand buoyancy follows the direction of the force, right? If I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go? Yes. Why do you think it goes up?
Atmospheric pressure.
Atmospheric pressure, exactly. So air is more dense than helium, so it's able to push it up, right? So in this scenario, the truck is what generated the force or the pressure to push the air in this direction, would then push the helium in that direction. What's generating the force here on Earth to be able to push up the air, to be able to push up the helium?
Push up the helium?
Yeah, because the air is being pushed up, the helium's being pushed up by the air, right? The helium balloon, because it's less dense.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, obviously it was the truck that pushed the air to push the helium. Here on Earth, what's pushing up the air to be able to push up the helium?
I mean, technically normal force. Right?
The normal force, okay, exactly. So here's the thing. So the normal force is an upwards push of the earth, and that's a real force that can be measured. In free fall, there is no measurable force. So what's happening in free fall, because objects don't accelerate down towards the earth, when I release this object, the object doesn't go down towards the earth, it's the earth that comes up to the object. And that's why this doesn't accelerate down, because it's the earth that's coming up. So the earth's force is a push, not a pull. So this whole pulling force of gravity has never been measured or detected. So the earth is literally moving up through space right now. So the earth is pushing up against you right now, it's not pulling you down. So, and buoyancy shows us that it's being pushed up, because buoyancy follows the direction of the real force, which they call the normal force, right? So let me ask you guys this, because this is what the real reason why I'm doing this. You guys believe the earth is a ball, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys understand that on a ball, up is relative? In other words, if you're standing here, up is in every direction away from the center will be up. If we could prove physically that the ground of the earth is literally moving up through space or pushing up, and that's what buoyancy, that's why we have buoyancy. How can the earth move up in every direction simultaneously if it was a ball?
Well, it's following the trajectory of the sun.
Well, that means it's orbiting the sun. That's what you believe. But if we could prove that it's the ground pushing up and not pulling you down, in other words, the earth is moving up through space, how would that work from a globe Earth? If the earth was moving up through space?
Because it's being pulled by a vector from the sun. Because the sun's relative gravitation.
What I'm saying is, if you're standing here, up for this person, up will be this way, right? But if you're standing down here, up for this person will be this way. So how can the earth move up this way and this way at the same time? How can that happen? And in every direction at the
spin.
So the reality is it wouldn't work. So in order for people to believe in the ball Earth theory, they first have to believe in the pulling force of gravity, which can easily be debunked. Because if we could prove that it's the other way around and it's the Earth pushing up, then the whole globe Earth model falls apart. So the reality is the Earth is actually just a level extended plane that's pushing up on us right now. So everybody's up is the same. So the Earth is moving up in one direction, which is up. So that's that's what gravity is. It's a push. It's the motion of the Earth. So the Earth is like a giant container, and we're inside of it. And the surface is level.
So this is flat Earth theory.
No, flat Earth is a psyop as well, because over 95% of flat earthers also believe in a pulling force of gravity. They mock it, but ironically they believe the same thing too. So they're morons, I have to say it. Flat earthers are morons. They mock something that they believe as well. But the reality, physics shows that it's the other way around. It's the Earth moving up, and that's why this appears to go down. It's because everything else is moving up. So this just loses momentum due to inertia, and the Earth just catches up again. So that,
like,
yes.
If that's what gravity is, then what about like the sun and all the other?
Yeah.
Like,
So when it comes to the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and all of the stars, nobody actually knows what they actually are. So there is a limit to how high human beings have flown, which is about 25 to 30 miles high. And the reason why is because in order to fly, like with a helicopter or an airplane, the air has to be at a certain density to be able to push off of it. The higher you elevate, the less dense the air becomes. So eventually you won't be able to push off of it anymore and gain altitude anymore. So there's a limit to how high we can go, and it's about 25 miles up. Anything that they're telling us about outer space and the stars is all made up. It's just fairy tales. So it's just stories to feed the globe Earth concept. So it's all just a concept. Reality, physics shows otherwise, that the globe Earth is physically impossible. So if I was to ask you guys respectfully, what's the number one proof that makes you believe the Earth is a ball? Like, why do you guys believe it?
Spherically?
Yes. Why do you guys believe the Earth is a sphere?
Why do I believe it's
Yes.
spherical?
Yes.
Well, the horizon dips. There's a refraction of light.
So
Yeah.
the horizon, obviously, there is a limit to how far we can see. So there's a limit to perspective. So the horizon is simply just the limit of our field of view. So anything that goes beyond the horizon is just going out of our field of view. Because when you bring out a powerful
But that
zoom
doesn't work with refraction.
No, well, here's the thing. If a boat disappears over the curve, right, because it's going out of your field of view, if you bring out a powerful zoom camera, optical zoom, and you zoom into that boat, you're able to pop it back into view. Because it has to do with, again, perspective and the limit of vision. That's why boats appear to disappear over a curve, because it's just going out of
So then how can you
perspective.
explain the changing of the sunset with refraction?
Changing of the sunset or refraction, what do you mean?
Okay,
Like,
so the sun appears to be white
Yes.
as a luminary,
Yes.
and as it goes down,
Yes.
it moves from orange to then pinkish.
oh, yeah.
That is all from refraction.
Yeah. Well, obviously it has to do with the atmosphere as well. I actually don't know exactly how the sun works. Again, nobody knows exactly what it is. They tell us it's a gas ball, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's more of like an LED light type of thing. I'm saying that very ignorantly because obviously I don't know what it is, but it's not a fireball.
It's a nuclear fusion.
That's what they say.
No, it is.
But okay, but first of all, when it comes to the sun and the moon and the stars, that tells us nothing about the dimensions of Earth physically.
Okay.
So that's where it becomes
Appreciate
a red
your time,
herring.
man.
I appreciate it, man. No worries. So here, you guys can take my information.
No, that's cool.
All right, no worries.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right. So that was cool. Better than nothing. I guess I didn't go with zero conversations, at the end of the day. So one's better than nothing. Let's see if I could get one more. If I could get one more right now, that would be cool. And look, it took for me to actually like ask if they wanted to give it a shot. And again, I tend to not do that. I don't want to like force people onto the table. But again, a simple question, I guess, is not that. It's not that forceful, right? Like, oh, do you want to give it a shot? No, okay, that's it. Now, if I push it, then maybe that's pushy, right? Oh, I wanted to talk about real quick the last video that I uploaded, right? With the physics student, right? The physics student, and then the conversation right after that one, which was the last conversation of the last video. I've noticed that I didn't get to the point fast enough, and I think it's because obviously they kind of interrupted me while I was presenting it. But I should have got to the point where the upwards push of the Earth can only work from a level Earth, right? Because you guys want to give it a shot?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. All right. So 2 very easy questions just to see if you guys trust your common sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so here I have 3 box trucks, and it's completely sealed, right? there's an apple hanging from a string in all three of them, and they're all on a level surface, right? The only difference between these three box trucks is that one is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So out of these three, which one is at rest? Yes, you got it. Why is that one at rest? Exactly, pretty easy, right? Which one's accelerating forward?
This one.
Yes. How do you guys know that one's accelerating forward?
It's like
When you accelerate,
when you accelerate,
yeah,
it
you
goes
go
back.
back.
Yeah, because of inertia.
Yeah.
So the whole truck is moving forward, but the apple appears to swing back, which is being left behind.
Sure, yeah.
Right? All right, cool. That's the first one, pretty easy. Second one, pretty similar, but instead of an apple, it's a helium balloon.
Okay, I see.
Same thing, but out of these three, which one is at rest?
B.
Okay, yes, for the same reason as the first
Yeah.
one. Which one's accelerating forward?
Pretty sure it's A.
A, yeah.
It's actually C in this one.
Is it?
Yeah, and the reason why is because obviously air is more dense in helium.
Uh-huh.
So when you accelerate the box truck in this direction, for example, all of the air that's inside of the box truck is also being pushed in that direction through space. And because air is more dense in helium, it's able to push it in that same direction.
I see.
So it reacts in the direction of the force. That's what we call buoyancy. When
Alright.
something less dense is pushed by the medium that surrounds it, right? So I can demonstrate that here. Look, this is a buoyant ball inside of water. Water's more dense, obviously. So if I accelerate in this direction, what direction do you think the ball's going to go? Yes.
Yeah.
See? It's pushing the direction of the force. So that's what
Yeah, I
we
see.
call buoyancy, exactly. So here, let me just show you this real quick. I did this apple and helium balloon experiment in a cargo van myself. And based on the principles, what direction did I accelerate here? To the right or to the left?
To the right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you got it. Yeah. So matter will always react to acceleration. Not only that, you'll be able to tell what direction that force is because of the buoyant object.
Gotcha.
Right? So here, I did it in a smaller scale just to prove the point. Again, a container filled with water and a ping pong ball and a steel ball.
I see.
So what direction did I accelerate here? Exactly. Yeah. Again, matter doesn't lie. Reality doesn't lie. You know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it shows you. So here's one last one.
Okay.
So I was holding a water bottle like this at rest, and I accelerated one down vertically. So one was accelerated down. So out of these two, which one would you say I accelerated down from being at rest? The one on the left or the one on the right? Vertically.
The one on the right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that one actually shows the reaction.
Yeah,
It shows the
exactly,
pressure.
yeah.
You know, that water. You know, the water pushing the ping pong ball down. So here's the thing: if I was holding it at rest like this and I just released it into free fall, do you guys believe gravity pulled it down?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You guys believe gravity accelerated down. So here's the thing: the one on the left was actually free fall, but we see that matter didn't react to that acceleration. And I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just a theory. So a pulling force of gravity has never been measured or detected. So again, that's why Einstein came out with his theory of relativity, just to explain how objects are accelerating down in free fall with no effects of acceleration. But the reality is because objects don't accelerate down in free fall.
Right.
So if I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go?
Up.
So obviously we understand helium doesn't move itself. It doesn't. So why does the helium balloon go up?
Is it less dense than air?
Yes, so the air is able to push it up. So in this scenario, the truck generated the force to be able to push the air in that direction, which then pushed the helium in that same direction.
Right. Makes sense.
What's generating the force here on Earth to be able to push the air up to be able to push up the helium?
Gravity.
Yes, gravity. But here's the thing: gravity is not a pulling force of the Earth; it's a pushing force of the Earth. So the ground right now is literally pushing up against you right now. It's not pulling you down, and that pressure is what's creating the air pressure here on Earth, which then is able to push up helium balloons in that same direction. So the air and everything right now is moving up through space right now. So the ground is moving up through space right now. So let me ask you guys this before you go. This is the real reason why I'm doing this. You guys believe the Earth is a ball, right?
Yeah.
If we could prove physically that the ground is pushing up and not pulling us down, and physics shows us that because buoyancy shows us that, right? If we could prove that the ground is literally moving up through space, obviously you guys understand that up is relative on a ball, right? So if you're standing here, up is this way. If you're standing here, up is this way. Every direction away from the center. So if we could prove that the ground is pushing up and not pulling us down, how can the Earth move up in every direction at the same time if it was a ball?
I don't know.
It actually wouldn't work. That would mean the
Yeah,
Earth would have to be
it would just
expanding.
expand,
Yeah,
yeah.
it would just explode. So in order for people to believe in the ball Earth theory, they first have to believe in the theory of gravity being a pulling force. Because if we could prove that it's the other way around, that it's the pushing force of the Earth, then the whole globe Earth concept falls apart.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't even exist on
Doesn't
paper.
make- yeah.
Exactly. So the reality is the Earth is actually just a level plane extended that's pushing up in one direction. So the Earth is just moving up through space in one direction. And because it's a level surface and we're all standing.
I see.
So yeah, so that's the number one proof that debunks the globe Earth is the fact that gravity is a pushing force, not a pulling force. And buoyancy shows us that. You know? So if I was to ask you guys respectfully, what's the number one proof or reason that makes you believe the Earth is a ball? Or why do you guys believe it?
Because
Space.
yeah,
What about space?
the horizon.
Okay, the horizon.
Yeah.
Sure. So because you think like things disappear over the horizon, right? So there is a limit to how far we can see. It's called the limit of perspective. So the horizon is not the curve of the Earth, like a physical curve. It's actually just the distance to how far we can see. Put it that way. So because when a boat appears to go over the horizon, and you bring out binoculars or a powerful zoom
You can
camera,
see the curve. You could see like
yeah. So
know what I'm saying?
yeah, here's my
Like-
thing. Do you know the radius of the Earth?
No.
Just real quick. So here, let me show you the radius. So this is the radius of the Earth, 3,959 miles. So based on the radius of the Earth, there has to be curvature every mile. And using a simple calculation like the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared,
Yeah.
we can calculate for how much curvature there should be every mile. And it turns out there should be 8 inches per mile squared. So if there was a real physical curvature there, we should be able to physically measure it. So they're claiming that in the first mile is an 8-inch drop, second mile 32 inches, and by the third mile there should be 6 feet of measurable curvature. So how do we measure for that, right? There's a very easy way. So if we went out to a giant lake that was miles across, we'll say 3 miles, and we build a level structure above that surface, the body of water, the physics of water when containing at rest is going to show that the surface is always going to be level or parallel to anything horizontal above it. But they're trying to tell us that the surface of water is bending 6 feet in 3 miles and 66 feet in 10 miles, which is a physical impossibility. Water doesn't have the ability to form any shapes on the surface. It always collapses and forms a level surface, regardless of distance. So this will be the number 2 proof to debunk the globe, is the physics of water when contained and at rest. It doesn't have the ability to hum.
Gotcha.
So there is no measurable curvature of the Earth. So do you guys have any questions for me before you go?
We have to get to class.
All right.
But thank you.
Yeah,
See you
appreciate it,
later.
man. Here, you give me my channel. I go to USCLA, UCR. I go
Okay.
to talk about this.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. You guys take care. One thing I noticed, they were kind of like in a hurry. Obviously, they got to get to class. But one thing I've noticed, I'm going to try to do is I kind of want to make the presentation a little bit more concise, but at the same time too, I don't want to feel like I'm just rushing through it, right? Because some people do have the time or do want to like get to learn, a bit, and they even ask me to slow down. Oh, can you ask that again, or what do you mean, right? So I would like to make it a little bit more concise, but at the same time too, I don't want to take away from the explanations or the demonstrations, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about understanding, right? So if I'm just rushing it, and you didn't understand anything I said, then that defeats the whole purpose, So definitely do want to, if possible, maybe concise the presentation, or maybe try a little bit different, something that I can get to the point a little bit quicker, right? Because that's what happened last time. Like I was saying in the last conversations with the physics students and the other student, they thought that I was pushing a globe Earth moving up through space. So when one of the guys was like, oh, so that means people are dying on the other side of the Earth, what he was saying is like, well, if the Earth is moving up this way, well, then everybody down here is basically dead, right? And it's because they thought that I was pushing a globe Earth moving up. So they were trying to find flaws in it. Even one guy said, "Oh, if the air is being pushed up by the Earth, then that would mean, and the air is pushing up, then that would mean all of the air from underneath has to move up to the top to be able to push up, right, in that same direction, right?" So again, he thought that I was pushing a globe Earth moving up, but again, on a globe Earth, up is relative, so it would just up is not this way, and up is not this way. Up is in every direction away from the center. That's what they didn't understand, and that's what I didn't get to. I was trying to get to that point where that's physically impossible on a globe. It can only work from a level surface. But because I didn't get to that point, again, they both thought that I was pushing a globe Earth moving up through space. So they were trying to find flaws in that. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense, right? How can the air move up only through one direction, up? That would mean the air down here has to end up on the top to move up this way, But again, it was just like a little bit of misunderstanding there. And because of that, they were kind of like they were basically kind of debunking themselves, because obviously I don't push a globe Earth. Obviously it debunks the globe Earth, but they were kind of like seeing the flaws in that logic and how it doesn't work. So they were trying to debunk me by debunking the upwards motion of the Earth, because they thought that I was pushing a globe Earth still. Once I brought in the subject about the level Earth, and then it kind of clicked, I think. at that point it's like, okay, now it makes sense. You're not pushing a globe that's moving up, obviously. So I kind of have to get to that point a little bit quicker so that people don't think that I'm pushing a globe Earth that's moving up through space. So yeah, but yeah, you could kind of, this last conversation that I had, you could kind of see that their attention span was just like kind of drifting, Unlike the first conversation that I had right before that one, they were actually, you could see it in their eyes, in their face, like, in their attention, right? When they're actually interested. That was the first conversation. The second conversation, again, after like halfway through, I kind of just lost them. Like, you just looked like they were just trying to go at that point. Like, they didn't care, like, oh, okay, right? But yeah, I kind of felt that, so towards the end. So I just basically, just cut it short at that point, But yeah, who knows? Maybe. As long as I could keep the presentation under 5 minutes, I think, right? Reasonable, right? Maybe possible under 3 minutes, just to get to the point, and then just start having a discussion about it. Then obviously that's the goal. You want to make the points and have a discussion about it. You don't want to just make the points and then people just like, oh, okay, and you just walk away, which is what literally happened in the second conversation, the last conversation. Just got to the point, they agree with it, they didn't want to argue it, so the conversation pretty much ends right there. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Again, some people are just gonna have more time than others, so I mean, as it is, I already concised it from 3 questions to 2. I don't know if I just want to do 1 question, right? I don't want to just rush it either, So yeah. You guys wanna give it a shot?
I don't trust my common sense. All right,
Well, we'll find out if you do or not.
I trust my common sense.
Yeah? There's 2 very easy questions to see if you do trust your common sense. All right, so we'll start with this one. Okay, this one. All right, so there's 3 box trucks here, and they're completely sealed. They are all on a level surface. The only difference between these, obviously there's an apple hanging from a string as well, and all 3 of them. The only difference between these 3 box trucks is that one is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So out of these 3, which one is at rest? Yes. Yeah. So how do you know that one's at rest?
Because the ball's in the middle.
Yeah, it's not moving. You can say that.
Yeah.
It's staying vertical.
Yeah.
You can say that. So which one's accelerating forward?
That one there.
Yes. How do you know?
Because the ball's moving back, which would be. Because we should know this one. Yes.
Because the lorry's accelerating, the ball still hasn't had time to accelerate.
Yeah, because of inertia.
Yeah.
So until the string's able to pull until that moment, then it's gonna appear to swing back. It's gonna
Stay in the same place until it.
Yes, you got it. Perfect. All right. So that was the first one. Pretty easy. The second one. The second one's pretty similar, but instead of an apple, is a helium balloon.
No.
So same thing. Out of these 3, which one is at rest?
That one.
Yes, and it's for the same reason as the first one, because it's vertical. Which one's accelerating forward?
That one.
Which one would you say? Yeah, so it's actually C in this one.
What?
Yes. So air is more dense than helium, right?
Oh.
Yes. So when you accelerate the truck in this direction, the air that's inside it,
Fine.
the air pushes it because the air is also being pushed through space in that direction because it's inside the truck.
Oh wow.
So obviously, yeah. So then I can demonstrate that here with this. So this is a buoyant object. So that's what we'll call buoyancy.
Yeah.
So obviously, the water is more dense than this ball. If I accelerate in this direction, what direction do you think the ball's gonna swing or move?
Wait, sorry, say that again?
So this is a buoyant object. I can demonstrate these physics here.
Yeah, let's do it.
So
So then in the same logic, the
ball should get pushed in that direction.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what we would call buoyancy. When something that's less dense than the medium that surrounds it gets pushed by that medium, right? So,
Learn something new every day.
yeah, I actually didn't know that either until a few years ago. So here's the thing. I did this
When something serious happens, you'll see.
I did this experiment myself inside of a cargo van with a helium balloon and an apple. So based on these principles, what direction did I accelerate here? To the right or to the left?
Oh, I can't really see what it is. Oh, that's much better.
So the helium went that way?
Yeah, there you go. You see the helium balloon?
Gone that way.
Yeah.
Yes. So what direction did I accelerate this container? To the right or to the left?
To the right.
Yes, exactly. Because not only does matter show you when there's a force applied, it shows you the direction of the force, especially if you have a buoyant object inside.
Yeah.
The buoyant object will always get pushed in the same direction as the force. right? And then real quick, I did it with different states of matter. So I did it in a water container with a steel ball and a ping pong ball. So right here, did it accelerate to the right or to the left? Yeah, to the left, because that's the direction the buoyant object got. The steel ball appeared to move in the opposite direction. That's because it was being left behind. And the camera was also moving with the container. And that's why the steel ball only appears to go back.
And the other one goes up.
Yeah, and the other one goes forward. Perfect, perfect.
Cool, thank you.
So yeah, so last one, and then
So how does this question link with this?
well, this is common sense. Now, if you see a buoyant object moving in any particular direction, you know that it's being pushed in that direction by the medium.
Okay.
So that's common sense now from now on. Yeah. So here, I was holding a water bottle like this, but I only accelerated one down vertically.
Yes.
Out of these two, which one did I accelerate it down vertically? The one on the left or the one on the right? If you had to pick.
Wait, what were you pushing down?
So the water bottle,
Yeah.
it has a steel ball and a ping pong ball inside.
Okay.
And I was holding it like this, but I only accelerated one down like this vertically.
Okay.
Out of these two, which one would you say I accelerated down?
Wait, so this one doesn't move?
Yeah.
And this one does move?
Yes.
So one you're holding still and one...
Yeah, they're both at rest initially, but I only accelerated one down vertically after. So they both started off at rest, but I only accelerated one down. Which one would you say that one is?
Are you talking between the apple and the...
No, the whole bottle.
Oh, the whole
I was
bottle.
holding the whole bottle. They were both at rest initially, but I only accelerated one down vertically.
Wait, can I just ask, let's say, so if I'm picking this one, am I
Yes.
saying the helium has gone down
Yes.
with the bottle and then the steel has gone up?
Yes.
Oh, it's that one.
Yes,
then. Yeah.
exactly. Because the steel ball's being left behind,
Yeah.
and the whole container's moving down.
Yeah.
And then the buoyant object got pushed down as well. Yeah, so that one I got physically accelerated down.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this: if I was holding it like this at rest and I just released it into free fall, do you guys believe gravity pulled it down? In other words, do you think gravity accelerated the whole bottle down?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. Obviously. So the one on the left, the one that didn't show any reaction, that one's actually free fall. But we see that matter didn't react to the acceleration whatsoever. I don't know if you guys knew.
Is it because it's staying at the same speed?
No, because obviously they're in free fall. They're claiming a 9.8 meters per second acceleration.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just a theory. So a pulling force of gravity has never been actually detected or measured in reality. So So what's happening, right? So again, if we understand buoyancy always follows the direction of the force. If I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go? Yes. Where do you think it goes up?
Because it's less dense than air.
Yes. So in this example, the container of the truck, obviously, is what generated the force to be able to push the air in this direction, and in result, that was able to push the helium in that same direction. What's generating the force here on Earth to be able to push the air up, so that it is then able to push the helium balloon up as well?
Isn't it the air particles going underneath it?
Yeah, you could say it's the air particles underneath pushing the helium up, because air is more dense, obviously.
Yeah.
But what's pushing up the air, do you think, to be able to push up the helium? Because air cannot move itself. Obviously, right? In this scenario, it was the truck that moved the air, that moved the helium. What's moving the air here on Earth to be able to move up the helium?
Isn't it just the helium moving up? No.
No, it's a direct correlation with the air. It's the air being more dense. Because if you have a vacuum and you remove the air, the helium doesn't rise, it falls. So it's the air being more dense that's able to push it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reality is, it's the Earth that's pushing up against you right now and not pulling you down. So the reality, the force of the Earth is a push, not a pull. And that same pressure right now that's pushing up on you right now, it's just,
We're pushing down on
But isn't that just the reaction force?
Equal and opposite reaction.
so the equal and opposite reaction has to do with inertia. So your body has inertia, so it wants to remain stagnant, it wants to remain static. So the Earth pushing up against that, that's the equal and opposite. Now you have weight because you're resisting that push. So that's why we have weight. So they basically flipped it. Instead of a pulling force and the Earth resists us, it's a pushing force and inertia resists.
We're resisting.
Yes, we're resisting it due to inertia. Because our body has mass, and anything that has mass has inertia eventually. And obviously, that's why we have weight. So here's the thing. This is the real reason why I'm doing this. So you guys believe the Earth is a ball, right?
Yes.
Do you guys understand that up is relative on a ball? Right? So if you're standing here, up will be this way for you, but if you're standing out here, up is this way, the opposite, right? So if we could prove physically that the ground is literally pushing up and not pulling you down, in other words, the Earth is moving up and not pulling us down, and buoyancy shows us that, right? If we could prove that physically, how can the Earth be moving up in every direction at the same time if it was a ball? How can the Earth move up for you if you're standing here, and another person down here at the same time?
or from the center? Like from the
Yeah.
center,
So you're
or
saying the Earth
same
is flat?
direction?
So what I'm getting to is that in order for people to believe in the ball Earth, they first have to believe in the theory of gravity being a pulling force. Because if we could prove it's the other way around, then the globe Earth wouldn't work. You know, it would just explode.
But couldn't you just say like, I mean, you use the situation of a helium balloon rising.
Yes.
That's a fluid.
Yes.
It's rising in the
Yes.
air, but we are being pulled to the ground, right?
No, so you're more dense than air. Obviously, this ball is
Yeah.
more dense than the air. So air is able to push up a helium balloon because helium is less dense than the air. If something is more dense than the air, then it's just going to be left behind. Just like the apple swinging back. It didn't swing back. It's the container that moved to the apple. So when I release this ball, this didn't move down to the earth. It's the earth that moved up to the object. So everything's moving up right now.
Okay.
And that's why the air is moving up as well. And that's why helium balloons go up.
Okay.
And it's something that's more dense than the air. It only appears to go down because it's the earth that just catches up again. So the earth is literally moving up. And here's the thing. That's the number one proof to debunk the globe earth. The fact that gravity is a push, not a pull.
Yeah.
And the reality is the earth is actually just an extended level plane. So we're all on top of the level plane and it's moving up only in one direction. So everybody's up is the same.
An infinite upward movement.
Some people say that it could be an infinite upward movement, but I say it's probably some kind of cycle. So it's moving in some kind
Are
of
you saying the Earth is flat, or are you saying
It's level.
It's level.
So there's a big difference between flat and level. So flat Earth is a psyop because over 95% of flat earthers claim the Earth is motionless. So they deny that the Earth is pushing up because they're kind of defending the globe Earth as well. So they're buying into this idea of gravity being a pulling force, but they just claim it's something else. So they mock gravity, flat earthers, even though they still believe in something pretty much the same. So it's pretty ironic. So the whole flat Earth versus globe Earth is a false dichotomy. It's a false debate. It's like Democrats versus Republicans. So it's just there to keep people distracted from the push of the Earth. That's the reality. So flat Earthers and globe Earthers both deny that fact, that the Earth is pushing up. And that's what debunks the motionless flat Earth and the globe Earth.
Okay.
So that's the real truth. You know, if I was to ask you guys respectfully, why do you guys believe the Earth is long?
Thanks,
Well, you've got like the entire, every government, all the scientists, everyone says it's round. For me, it makes more sense that it's round than it constantly going up.
But why does it make more sense that it's round? Like, that's the question.
Because
I think that I sort of think like I understand your point, but you can sort of look at the issue in sort of different.
gravity is a force.
Yes,
You're
but it's a
denying-
push, not a pull of the Earth.
But
Flat Earthers
what
would
if I
deny
say I
that.
believe it's a pull? Because
Well, that's the thing.
Because
Basic.
like a star, like
Yeah.
how stars are made, is because all matter is being pulled towards
Yeah.
it. So then that means gravity is pulling things towards
Yeah, so here's how we debunk that as well. So not only can we debunk that by the fact that matter doesn't react to acceleration in free fall, we can also debunk it using an accelerometer in our phones. So I don't know if you guys knew, every smartphone has an accelerometer built in, and that's how it's able to detect when you have it in landscape or portrait. You know how it changes?
Okay.
Because it's detecting the vertical force of the Earth. But again, they're claiming that force is down, but it's actually up. It is vertical, but it's up. But here's how we know that.
So you're saying the only reason we fall down to the ground is because we're denser than air?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But
And due to your inertia, your body's inertia.
okay.
Yeah.
But couldn't you also argue it from like a different perspective? Like if you, to be fair, that's just a theory. But again, like how gravity is like a theory, right?
Yes.
And it hasn't necessarily been detected. If you take, for example, like the theory of relativity, and then assume that you have the split of this space-time constant, right?
Sure.
And you know how we're told that the Earth oscillates around the sun, just how
Sure.
if you put a bowling ball and then put something, a ball of a slighter mass and roll it around, it will start orbiting in a sort of like a.
I mean, they're using
in
a string.
eclipse.
Well, they're using a string in a physical example, but they want us to believe that that's happening without the string, and that's
so do
gravity.
you not believe we're
No. The whole heliocentric model, in other words, the sun being at the center of the universe and we revolve around it or whatever, all of that's made up. So nobody's been outside of the Earth reference frame. Nobody's actually been outside of the Earth reference frame.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the number one proof again. But gravity is a push, not a pull. You know?
Right.
And again, I mean, do you know the radius of the Earth that they tell us? No? You guys, there's the number two proof that debunks the globe has to do with there is no measurable curvature of the Earth. So
And then the sun? going like
What about the sun?
setting and then like?
Well, the sun, again, nobody knows exactly what the sun is, and it just goes out of view. It just moves. So here's the thing. The radius of the Earth, they tell us, is 3,959 miles. That's the distance from the center to the outer circumference, right? So based on the radius of the Earth that they tell us, it has to be curvature every mile. So it turns out that there should be 8 inches per mile squared. So in the first mile, it should be an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches. And by the third mile, it should be 6 feet of curvature. And you can use this formula to verify that. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You can calculate for the gap between the level and the curve. And again, they're telling us that in 3 miles, there should be 6 feet of curvature. But how do we measure for that, right? Very easy. So if we went out to a giant lake that was 3 miles across with water, and once the water is contained and at rest, if we build a level structure above the surface of water, like completely horizontal, the water is going to be parallel to anything horizontal above it, because that's the physics of water when contained and at rest. It always collapses towards a level surface. That's what water level means.
Okay.
So they're trying to tell us that water level means curve, that there's actually a 6-foot deviation from the level in 3 miles. And in 66 feet in 10 miles, which completely defies the physics of water. So a physical measurement of the Earth has never been done because it doesn't exist. And the physics of water debunks that. So that will be the number 2 proof to debunk the globe.
What are you guys thinking?
You know? So yeah, so if you guys want to take some information, here are the 6, inside of the 6 proofs that debunk the globe.
Okay,
and
thank
I guess
you.
give it a read. Alright, take care, man. Alrighty, that's gonna be it for this one. I'm gonna start putting stuff away. And yeah, I'm gonna see if anybody stops and I'll entertain the chat real quick, but it looks like that's gonna be it. Hey, at the end of the day, staying a little bit longer did help. Obviously I got 3 conversations in the last 30 minutes. Pretty crazy, but again, better than nothing for sure. And again, all 3 conversations, it had to be me to asking them if they wanted to try it, you know. So maybe I should have done that from the get-go, low-key. Anybody that looked interested, I should have just asked them like, hey, you want to give it a shot? The 3 times that I did that, you know, it's the 3 conversations I had. So yeah, I guess maybe I should just do that more often. I'm just trying to give people the chance, you know, to come up to the table on their own, you know. I think that's better, but yeah. It's cool. No harm done. Alrighty, so putting this one away. Yeah, I'm glad I changed the battery to the camera. I would have missed half of that for sure. Oh, fuck. All right. Augustus, Blue Pac-Man, Angelito, and then everyone else in chat. Thanks for coming. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Yeah, we'll see when the next one's gonna happen. I'm not sure, but yeah, again, thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.